Good evening, Facebook Live on Bourbon BS Podcast. We've got Jake back.
I'm back, folks. Sorry about the wait. Had to get some stuff done, you know that, and we appreciate all the support through and through. Appreciate Dustin and Nate for standing in on my behalf, and I was kind of bummed out that I missed having Tyler on, but we'll get him back on, and along with AJ and Angelo. So we'll get all those guys back on so I can at least talk to them, right? But no, Steve's been doing a great job, and we've talked a lot about how we were keeping this thing going, and even though I had to do my thing, we wanted to show out for you guys, and that's exactly what we did. So we appreciate the support, and happy Whiskey Wednesday. We're accompanied tonight by Pilot Andy, the famous Pilot Andy, at the shop, and we're happy to have you back on for the third time, right?
Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it. It's glad to be back, as always, and it's good to be around good company and great friends, as always.
Yeah, and I think that each time that we've done this, right, it's just been us three.
I believe so.
Or maybe the first time.
Dustin
was on. When you were on, yeah, that was back in May of 2018. We found out, so and that was a good podcast too. So as Steve's doing, and as we encourage everyone else to do, please like and please share the podcast. We've been getting a lot of great views, and we appreciate the support again. But we still want to keep that climbing. Don't forget that you can listen to the podcast itself on iTunes, Spotify. Steve and I are working on getting it done on iHeartRadio and Pandora if that makes it easier for you guys. And it's also on YouTube for those that have the smart TVs and want to watch it on your big TV. I do that sometimes, so it's kind of nice. But yeah, so there's no excuse not to listen, and we know that we're entertaining and make you laugh, so thank you again. So happy Whiskey Wednesday, and we hope that you really enjoy this podcast, and I'm glad to be back for episode 71.
What are you guys all smoking and drinking tonight? It's rainy here in Columbus, Ohio, but if you guys are somewhere that's not rainy, you might be smoking, or if you're smoking in a garage like we are on a covered porch or patio, let us know what you're smoking. Hopefully some of you guys did get the Espada Oscuro that we talked about already. So
yeah, I keep forgetting that you guys did it last week as the featured cigar, but didn't really talk about it.
Yeah.
So that's why we're doing this.
That was the whole goal. We didn't want you to miss out on everything.
Yeah, right.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Nate's excited to hear about this bourbon, so let's get to it here.
Yeah.
You ready for your infamous?
I think I'll do it right.
All right.
Ready?
Yep.
Damn it.
That was really good.
No, it wasn't.
That was really good.
It's okay.
Thanks.
Happy Whiskey Wednesday, everyone. I'm Jake Sanders along with Steve Crane, and we make up the Bourbon BS Podcast. And I'm back. I'm excited to be back, and I appreciate everyone for the support for the podcast itself. Steve's been holding down the fort along with Nate and Dustin Bovey, and I appreciate you guys being on and standing in. It's always fun to have you guys included in this. And it's been great having Angelo, AJ, and along with Tyler Jones on in the recent weeks, so it's been great. We are accompanied tonight by our famous Pilot Andy, a great friend of ours that has become a regular in the shop, and it's great to have you on.
It's more like a regular, it's like more like family.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
I mean,
that's true.
Come on.
That's exactly right.
It's cut straight to the chase. I mean, we're just, it's beyond that now. It's almost like a brotherhood.
Yeah.
To some degree.
That's exactly right, man. We're so excited to have you on tonight. So, like you know already, we talk about a whiskey, we talk about a cigar, and we have a life topic. So tonight we're going to be doing the Cooper's Craft Barrel Reserve that's coming out of Brown-Forman. And then we're also going to be doing the brand new Espada Oscuro Montecristo from Altadis as our main one. And then we also have a secondary sponsored cigar by Altadis, thank you, the Romeo San Andres, which we've had on a few times. It's always good to have Altadis and be involved, and we always thank them for the sponsorships. And what's our topic tonight, Steve?
The topic is, and I'm kind of interested to see what the Facebook Live audience brings to it, but it's moving forward over just moving on.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we talk about in a lot of the different subjects, we'll discuss the importance of moving on. Everyone says you need to move on, whether it be, typically that's going to be with something negative, and I think that's what I'm really looking forward to seeing, how this conversation can be about, obviously, when negative or struggles or hardships come upon in your life, but also when things are going well. And it's hard to say goodbye to good things too when you have these good things going on, but there's a different opportunity, or there's something that comes up that there's a life change, whether it be small or large, that you have to deal with and not just move on, because that's the more common phrase in my opinion, is moving on. So that's what we're going to dive into.
Yeah. And who are our sponsors? Are Tinderbox. It's like I haven't even been on for 3 weeks.
You already,
so I forget.
yeah.
But Tinderbox at Easton, always, we love you. Brian and Steve, thank you for sponsoring the podcast itself. Thank you, Altadis USA, and Josh and Paul Waller.
Mm-hmm. Josh Bentley and Paul Waller, yeah, absolutely.
And thank you, Be a Cigar Brand. Brian and Steve, you make an awesome cigar, and I'm holding on to my golds for the time being. And we'll get that set soon. But there's a couple BS Silvers on the table, and they're good as well. So, how's it been, Andy? You're moving on in life as we moving forward, right?
That's why I say keeping the blue side up.
Blue side up.
Is that a pilot phrase? I've never heard that before. I get it.
I ain't crashing.
Yeah, you're not Denzel Washington in Flight, right?
No,
You're not.
no,
I mean,
far
that
from
would be
that.
like the green side down.
Far from
right?
that. Yeah. That's you know, when I saw that movie, I was a little bit, disgruntled, because I was like, this is how Hollywood portrays pilots. At our finest. This type of lifestyle,
Cocaine addict,
and the hookers, or sleeping with the flight attendants, and
Well, that was at the peak of the industry, so this is kind of the back end of that, right?
Well,
yeah,
I don't know.
so they're half right.
Yeah, I fly boxes, so the flight attendant
They don't
thing I know
complain as
nothing
much.
about.
The boxers don't complain, I know that.
No, it's great. No, since we've had you on last, there's a lot that's happened in your life, though, right? You've went from private. Would you call it a shuttle? I mean, would that be the last correct phrasing?
I think the last time I was on, I just completed training with the job I'm at now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we can say my company's name or not. I don't know if that's appropriate, but
Yeah. No,
We don't care, but
we don't care.
they might, so yeah, no need to.
but
You're not flying out tomorrow, are you?
no,
All right, you're
no.
fine.
So, but yeah, so was doing did training on the 767 last when I came back on the show.
Yeah.
And before that, I was flying. I was doing corporate charter work, flying locally for a gentleman here in Columbus.
Yeah.
Who I used his name, I'll leave exclusive. And he was leasing out his jets for corporate charter work as well. So he would lease them on with other brokers, or company that starts with an N, but the last name
Don't
is
worry about
Jets.
it. Don't worry about it.
I know where you're going at.
But you can figure it out. But so yeah, but life's been good. I've been on it's been a roller coaster ride, but it's been an uphill climb, and I think I can kind of start to see the light at the end of the tunnel on this thing. And there's not many moves left for me as far as like career switching jobs or anything. I would love to, get on, UPS would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, but okay, is where I'm at too. And with Amazon and what's happening with that whole structure and what they're doing, they're obviously taking over the world, and to be a part of that as well is great.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
No, it's amazing, and I think that it's interesting, and it's great to hear that you went from basically being on call, and I know how much you despise that.
yeah.
And now, I mean, even though that it is night shifts, you have a pretty much schedule
Right.
for the most
Right.
part, and that
Right.
at least you can base your life around that, and that's what it's all about. Because before it was just like you didn't know what you were doing the next day,
No.
basically.
No. I essentially only work 2 weeks out of the month. It's not that,
Yeah.
I don't have quite a bit of time off, and now I'm starting to figure out, because I get my pay raise this month. Now I can start to figure out what I want to do with my time.
Right.
And that's going to, figure out a whole new change. But, as you know, the news and all that, recently engaged.
Yeah.
And
so
That's
congratulations.
thank you. That's a whole new another thing on the horizon that's going to be new.
Speak up. I mean, did anyone hear what he just said? It's kind of big news. Can you talk to the people in the back?
So yes, I'm recently engaged, and tying the knot soon.
To a lovely woman. Very sweet.
Yes.
Very.
Yes. And so it's exciting times, and life's going to change, and but
I like the excitement / like just awe that you have right now. Like it's all excitement, but it's still just.
Well, Steve, I wouldn't lie to you.
Eyebrows are up.
And tell you that I'm a little bit nervous.
I'm a little. I'd say it's the fear of the unknown, but really it's partially that. Like where you're headed, but it's still like there's a lot going to change. There's a lot that's going to be for the better.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking forward to having Andy on and having that topic tonight.
Yeah.
Is the moving forward part.
Yeah.
No, it's great. It's funny because you were gone because like at the beginning when you started the new job, it was pretty much all night shifts.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw you one day, and then you were like, "Well," I was like, "How you doing?" And you said, "Well, to be honest, like I'm good, but if you didn't know, I propose. We're getting together and getting married." I'm like, "Wow, that's awesome," But it is something. I don't know what that's like, and I can only imagine that it's scary, but it's also wonderful in the same sense.
It is, and I'm a little bit older, and I've had a good run at being single, and I'm ready to share my life, and I'm ready to grow with someone.
That's excellent.
And that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
And it's either you take that plunge, or I could be single for another 4 years, I'm just, but like I said, I had a good run, and I'm ready to settle down and grow with someone.
Yeah.
So, but it's exciting time. It's a lot of change, and she's from Toronto, Canada, and she's originally from South America, and
So who are you rooting for in the finals right now?
well, of course, Toronto.
That's what I was wondering. I mean,
There's more people rooting against Golden State, honestly.
he answered correctly. I'm just saying.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't care, but for
I'm
him,
more into the finals than she is. I'm like,
Why are you rooting for Toronto?
because part of me, I've spent so much time in
Right.
Toronto
No.
because of her. It's like I feel like I'm a little bit part of the city.
It's a Canadian team, I'm just saying.
I love Canadians. Come on.
Clearly.
it's great. So how's it been, Steve? Like since
I've seen you. Like, don't
I
make it seem
know,
like we don't
but
see each other.
it's just weird.
It's been good actually. We had I think a few good episodes, and the response has been great. So for those of you tuning back in, we appreciate it. Last week's episode was really nice. We had a pretty pointed conversation, but there was a lot of honest feedback as far as from other people, and then people that are on here. It was nice to hear kind of what the struggles and. I learned a lot about AJ. I know him fairly well, but I learned a lot about him. I learned a lot about Angelo, who I don't know as well. I know him as like a musician, Angelo, friend of AJ.
Right.
And then with the expertise he brought on. So if you guys did not watch that or listen to the podcast from last week, I thought that was a lot of information on a subject that we don't normally always get into as much.
Yeah.
And I was happy to share what I could, and I learned a lot from that episode. So we've had some good episodes. Nate and Dustin filled in really nicely, I thought. And you were missed for sure, not only by us, but also by the audience. So it's good to have you back on. All in all, I think this is going to be a good episode, though. But yeah.
It's exciting. Should we get into whiskey?
I've already gotten into it. I don't know about you guys.
Well, yeah. Well, I had some before I came over here, and Andy tried it before, and I kind of liked his response. So tonight we're doing the Cooper's Craft Barrel Reserve. We did the original expression, or the lower proof expression, a few weeks back. Actually, it was episode 55, so not a few weeks. It's a lot longer than a few weeks. It seemed just like yesterday. But and that was pretty good. But it's interesting to go back and listen because when we had that on, I said this would be great at 100 proof, and that was just when they were coming out with this. So it finally hit the stores here in Ohio. It's a great bourbon whiskey coming out of Brown-Forman. It's 100 proof. I don't know the exact age. A little bit of backstory on Brown-Forman, we've kind of talked about it, is that they're the only distillery itself that has its own cooperage. For those that don't know, it's just, basic is that they just make the barrels. So there's a bunch of there's Independent Stave Company that's based out near of Lexington, Kentucky, and there's a few others in the nation. But Brown-Forman actually builds a lot of virgin white oak barrels for a lot of distilleries here in America. So it's pretty cool that they have their own cooperage. And if you go down to the Old Forester distillery in Louisville, they actually, throughout the tour, they actually show you them firing the barrels. And you get to be close to it and see like how they do it. So we've talked a little bit about how barrels are fired on the podcast, but specifically this 100 proof barrel reserve is it's char number 4 alligator skin. So there's seven different chars, along with there's a few toasting methods. There's like 2 levels of toasting, and that means that it's just that the wood is barely toasted. It's not fully black and it hasn't split like how you would if you had like a bonfire and you see the ashes build on wood. It's not like that yet. But so this is level 4, and they do an interesting thing to the wood after it's fired. It's actually, they go in post-char. So if you can imagine this, they fire the barrels, and then they actually take the barrels and they actually groove out little slots inside of the barrel to allow more for the maturation process. And what that means is that it allows the whiskey and the liquid inside the barrel to enter the wood more extremely, if you would. So it's kind of an interesting process, and I think they nailed it. I think it's a great bottle for around $30 MSRP. What is it, like 33 or 34?
It's actually $29.99, yeah, as far as in Ohio on the shelf.
Yeah, and it's like 31, 32 out the door with tax.
Yeah, you plus it. Yeah, in Franklin County where we're located, it's 7.5% sales tax. So yeah, I mean, you're looking at low 30s out the door, which for what it is.
It's really good.
I've always enjoyed it. I've already actually added just a dash of water to mine.
Have you?
Yeah.
I might too. It off the nose, for those that do drink Old Forester, it's just a classic Old Forester taste. And what I mean by that is that it has a lot of rich brown sugar notes, a lot of vanilla, and like what Andy said before the podcast, it's got some spice to it, which I think balances everything out.
Sure.
But I love the rich, bold flavor. It's something that I think is approachable for a non-whiskey drinker, but it's also something that for experienced whiskey drinkers that they can grow and know to love because it has that rich flavor. It's actually really amazing. And the fact that I was actually afraid to have it on the podcast because most people they know about it, but they don't know it's this good. And I'm afraid it's going to be one of those ones that just gets taken off the shelf. So
you're going to ruin it, Jake.
I know. But it's a great bourbon whiskey coming out of Brown-Forman, and I think they nailed it.
Yeah.
What do you guys think on the nose and taste? Is there anything that sticks out, Steve?
On me, I don't know. This one definitely has, and maybe it's because I haven't had whiskey in a couple days. But it's got a little more heat to it. The nose, I don't know, I'm getting, you always talk about fruits.
Yeah.
I'm getting a whole lot.
Yeah.
Maybe a hint of something, a little sweetness in there.
Yeah.
But there's
definitely some heat.
There's heat to it. And for being, 50%, I'm surprised how much heat there is. That's why I added a little bit of water. But again, not having whiskey for a few days, which, forgive me, everyone. It's something that I had a rough Sunday at a golf outing, but it's got that typical stuff, a little bit of that hint of like the caramel, you know what I mean? But it's not as prevalent. I mean, it's not. I don't know. For me, it's got the little bit of sweetness.
But it's mostly heat to you right now?
Right now, and the nose isn't, and maybe it's because I'm smoking the cigar too, which has a lot of flavor to it. I'm not getting a lot of aroma to it. I'm not getting a whole lot of predominant notes. I'm getting some, and I like this, don't get me wrong, so it's going to come across that I don't really care for it, but it's something that I'm getting just kind of a very neutral whiskey, like liquor type of a nose to it. I'm not getting a whole lot of those pronounced things. So maybe that means it's balanced pretty well, like I'm enjoying it, but again, something that, some of the other stuff that we've had on this podcast, it's not anything that's really blowing me away, but I'm not going to say I don't care for it. If that makes sense.
It's good. Like what you said, Jake, Old Forester.
Yeah.
It's very similar to me, like Old Forester.
Well, it's coming out of the same distillery.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
I've talked about it, and I talk about it all the time, is that there's distilleries that they have a signature taste. And it's like Jim Beam, Wild Turkey, Old Forester, anything that is Brown-Forman related, unless it's, Jack Daniels or Woodford Reserve, because that's under the Brown-Forman umbrella too, right? So, but this has an Old Forester taste to it, and I think that I was reading reviews on it, right? And the weird note that I couldn't really figure out was they said that, and it was across the spectrum, as they said there was like a hint of citrus like in the back, which I think that's really searching.
That's tough to decipher.
Maybe that's that sweetness that I was saying. I don't get a whole lot of fruit, but they're saying that the citrus in the back, maybe that's that sweetness that they're describing.
I don't know. I'd say the sweetness would be the vanilla and the brown sugar that's coming out of it. Because that's all I'm getting. Besides, if off the nose, if it was any citrus, it'd be just like a lemon zest. Like if you ever just pour
like sour.
Yeah, it's just like a sour note. But it's so far in the back and it's just off the nose. But in the taste, it's just like brown sugar and vanilla, and I like what Steve said, caramel.
Yeah.
But that's how that happens, and the spice kick is out of all those slots in the woods that out of the wood staves that they carve out, because it's grabbing everything, all those tannins, all the sugars out of the wood, and that this is what's coming out after. Based on how it tastes, I can't imagine that this is anything less than 6 years old.
So does it say that? Does it say anywhere on the bottle?
No.
Cool, thanks guys.
I couldn't find it on any of the reviews either.
No.
So no one really knows how, and it could be a blend. We don't know. It probably is a blend since it doesn't say single barrel or anything. But who knows how many barrels was in this batch. But this is the second round that they've done this. The first round, it was pretty pricey. So to see that drop to that $29 or $30 mark in Ohio, I think it's pretty great. So
I gotta say, again, I it's not that I don't care for it, but it's coming back to me that when we did the Cooper's Craft, what's the original?
It's like 86 proof. I don't know.
Well, no, I think it's but I'm saying, is it just called Cooper's Craft?
Yeah.
That was the one that we were actually really impressed with, because that one's going to be, or I recall myself being impressed with, because on the shelves in Ohio, you're looking at $22.95 or whatever it is. So you're out the door for much less than $30. Yes, it's not going to be 100 proof, and I know you always talk about it, so I'm interested to see what you do with water in there.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that Jake always talks about, is that he wants to be able to proof it down if needed. So this gives you that opportunity, I think, to do that. Two different products, but I definitely think that it's something that this is worth the $30. Again, I'm interested to see, you just added water, Jake, so we'll see what he thinks about that. But I really think that if I was going to choose between the two of them just to have a bottle for $30 or less, I'd probably go with the original Cooper's Craft.
Really?
Personally, yeah.
See, I'm kind of the opposite. I would like to pay an extra $8 to have this at this proof, because I think it has a lot more. It just has a lot more character to it.
Interesting.
And, I like the oak and what I've talked about already. So, and I think it goes good. I mean, we haven't talked about the cigar, but it goes well with it.
No, Jake, I have a question. You were talking about the char on the barrel.
Yeah.
What's the regular Cooper Craft? Where is it on that char compared to this?
That I don't actually know. If I had to guess, it'd probably be the same char. They just don't do the wood carvings out of the, or make
So
those
different
slots.
technique.
Different technique,
I
if
got
you
you,
will.
yeah.
And they're keeping it, and like I said, they're keeping it above that 86 mark. They're keeping it at 100 proof, which for a lot of whiskeys, especially bourbons, I think that you take a lot of flavor out when you proof stuff down. Because if you think about it, when you have a massive tank, right, and all they use is some distilleries just use like what you would see as like a bulk tank or like a fuel tank.
Sure.
And they just use like a fuel nozzle to put it and take it out of the barrel and stuff like that. So when that's sitting in there, and if you think about it, so this probably is coming out of the barrel like 115, 120, probably even more. Because it can only go in the barrel at 125 or less. And then if it's coming out at like 110, think about what the difference is from 110 to 86 proof. Think about how much water that would be in a big batch.
Yeah.
So
How much longer does it stay in that batch then?
what do you mean?
So the difference, I mean, to explain it to me, I mean, like, so adding water to what we just did, right? So when you talk about proofing it down, which I get, you know what I mean, especially the ones that are going to be barrel proof or whatever it is, you know, the higher ones. What's the difference of adding water at the end of the process in your glass versus proofing it down at the distillery?
Yeah,
If there is.
great question.
Yeah.
It is a good question, and honestly, there really isn't a difference. It's just the fact that it's changing your experience, right?
Well, it's forcing a change in the way that you describe it, right?
Yeah, well, for the distillers to do that, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's what I'm like. So it's already got the characteristics. I mean, again, these are different processes, like you said. But it's something that, you know, when it gets into that big vat, like it's not really. I mean, it's aging, but it's not aging in a barrel. So this is like the processing side of it, right? So they prove it down to 100 here.
Yeah.
So if it was the exact same product and they proved it down to 80, 86 or something like that, then you're dealing with the fact that they just made the choice. So that's where they think, you know, and you can still prove it down from there in your glass. You know,
Yeah.
for some people, you know, 86 might be like, oh, there's a little bit of heat. I'm gonna add a little bit of water. Throw an ice cube in there. I've been reading a lot more about ice cubes in whiskeys. Like that's like the new.
Yeah.
I don't want to say the new trend, but it's like originally it was like one of those things when I learned about like scotches and such, it was like, yeah, that's fine, throw an ice cube in there if you want to ruin something that they took, you know, 15 years to make.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then we go back to that philosophy. It's like whatever you like the best, you know, you bought the bottle.
Yeah.
You're not really insulting anyone, you know what I mean? Except for if you were sitting there drinking with the distiller and like, wait, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, adding like a, you know, 15-year single malt with Coke.
But bourbon,
Like,
bourbon's cheaper than scotch.
not as much anymore, I'm
Not
telling you. I
anymore,
tell
yeah.
you, they've changed. This is, yeah, I mean, you're not going to find, it's interesting, you'll find, I think, more scotches that are dipping down to like that 30, 35 level that aren't going to be as well sought after.
I think the culture is just different.
I think they're meeting each other.
Yeah.
Bourbon is meeting up to that scotch like persona or that reputation.
Yeah.
And scotch is like, hang on, you're dipping into our market share. Now we're going to have to dip into your market share.
Exactly. It's getting more competitive.
It's great. I mean, and what I mean by it's just like it's a difference in culture is like if you would do that with like a scotch, like most scotch is already proof below 100, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think when we're talking about scotch and bourbon, and Brad and I have spoke about this too before, is that there's a culture that comes with like it depends on like what you're drinking. Because yeah, someone might get irritated if you do put like an ice cube in like a 30-year-old scotch, but no one's gonna do that with something like this. So
Do what?
like put like an ice cube in. No one's gonna rip your head off because you put like an ice cube in something like Cooper's Craft Barrel Reserve.
No, I agree with that.
But I will
Most likely.
say,
There's probably some, you know, fanboy out there that would,
yeah.
what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, just drink it.
I will say though that I don't think that if you're trying to get the most out of your senses and smells and the taste, I would not suggest an ice cube because cold messes with the senses and actually the smell of the flavor.
Yeah.
Cold I've seen a lot of questions on like a lot of different pages about how do you feel about putting whiskey bottles in like refrigerators or freezers.
Yeah.
And I guarantee if you do that and you take it out, you're not going to smell anything as soon as you pour it in a glass.
Just mutes it.
Yeah, it just mutes.
Will it come back if you let it go to room temp?
Yeah, but
That's interesting.
so like if someone's trying to do like a whiskey tasting, or they're trying to get everything out of the whiskey itself that they want to get out of it, I would say do like room temperature water or distilled water or something like that, or like Kentucky's branded a water that's like limestone
Of course, yeah.
filtered water, because limestone water is pretty much their main marketing standpoint, because there's a lot of magnesium, there's no iron, it doesn't mess with the whiskey. So, but yeah, enough of that.
Well, no, it's good. I think it's great. I mean, this so far, when I added the little bit of water that I did, it was a little more than you did, I think. But maybe it's having more sips of it. The burn's gone away a little bit. I'm getting more of
I did the same
that caramel. I'm getting more of the actual food flavors that I enjoy out of the whiskey. So again, I don't know if I should have most likely just gone through the first glass and then did a second one with that water once my palate has kind of adjusted to that burn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It definitely takes the alcohol off the nose when you add a little bit of water into it. It takes the acidic aspect out of it, and especially with the taste. Like I almost said as soon as I did it and I tasted it, and added water and tasted it again, I almost said it tasted exactly like what the 86 proof Cooper's Craft was, but it doesn't. There's still that complex like caramel note. I thought when we did the regular Cooper's Craft, it was very bland. So
yeah, we should revisit. I need to revisit that one then.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
But this is good. I really really enjoy this stuff. So,
do you prefer it without water or with water, Jake?
I prefer it without, just because, especially when you're smoking a cigar like what we're doing tonight, I don't think that you want to proof this down anymore. But it definitely is nice with water. I think it's nice regardless.
Yeah. What are you, Andy?
I added water. I think it tastes better with water.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, open it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Mellow it out just a little bit.
Take that heat off, and it's really smooth for me. I enjoy it.
It gets more dangerous. It's funny, like you think proofing it down, it gets more dangerous for me, even though it lowers that alcohol, maybe.
Yeah, then you start, like you said,
but it's easier to go down. Now it's actually kind of refreshing. You're like, you know what? Yeah, I'll take another bite of that pie. I know it's not great for me, but another bite's not gonna hurt. It's not that many more calories. It tastes better with whipped cream. All right, let me add some whipped cream to it. Yeah, that's fine.
Just eat the fruit.
Well said. Yeah, eat the fruit. Yeah, it's a fruit. It's an apple pie. It's an apple pie. You know what I mean? Apple pie is apples. It's good for you. I mean, whatever.
A little bit of sugar.
I think you guys figured this out with the IW Harper, because I'm pretty sure the last time that Andy was on, I wasn't here, and it went down like water. And from what I remember, after the podcast was an interesting story.
Well, Andy crashed on the couch, and I knocked over a chair.
No, dude, you knocked over a chair, and I heard a bottle go kabang.
No broken glass. No broken glass.
I was like, man, what the heck is going on?
Beth says, Beth Ism, who's been on before, says, not surprised Stevie likes the girl drinks. It's 2019. It's gender neutral. You know what I mean? Beth, I feel like you're better than that.
So you like Shirley Temples, or
who doesn't like a Shirley Temple? Like when I was a kid, like I loved Shirley Temples. I remember going to like Monte Carlo restaurant in Westerville. The Italian place. I don't think it's around anymore, but like loved it with the maraschino cherries. You know what I mean? Like that was like a treat as a kid. Being like the white tablecloth. Even like as a kid, I kind of like that whole like Sinatra mobster, type vibe. You kind of eat the Italian food. You got the old school Italian music playing, you know what I mean? And then it's like you got the little Shirley Temple.
Yes.
And it's delicious.
Yes.
Same. It's like saying not like, I don't want to have an umbrella drink on a tropical vacation. Yeah, you're lying to yourself. Absolutely lying to yourself.
I'd rather have a mojito than like a pina colada though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's rum in both.
That's true.
You make good mojitos in Miami.
That's right. And in Cuba.
So what is this? What are we
Are
smoking?
we moving on to the cigar now?
Yeah. What are we smoking?
So Montecristo has teamed up with Plasencia again, and I've been in the industry for a while, and Plasencia I know is one of the highest acclaimed cigar growing families, been around for ages. It's one of those old school families. They make they grow a lot of tobacco, they make a lot of cigars for a lot of different people, and it's very well respected. I don't know the history as well as I wish I did. And so one of the things, prepping tonight, and I'm gonna do what a lot of you guys can do, and there's so much information out there, so please, forgive me for just basically going back to the source here. But if you go to the Plasencia Cigars, and I know you guys can find this, but I mean, maybe this is the first time you guys are hearing this, but the first generation goes back to 1865.
Oh, wow.
And so this is going back, well back to, before even Cuba. This is in the Canary Islands. They left the Canary Islands and they started in the Cuban area. So you're going back to even like the third generation in the 20s. Mm. And so that's when they really started to export and sell all this stuff. And then in 1963 in Cuba, so this is where they had transplanted to, that's when Castro's regime basically confiscated all the farms. Hmm. So that's where all this went down. And they say that in that generation, right, so you're still in the third generation, they actually fled to Mexico is what the information will tell you.
Interesting.
So they go here to Mexico, right? So this is all in the progress. And now we're in the middle of the 1900s. So it's not that long ago. And a lot of times you hear like the 1960s, Padron, 1964, that's when he, fled.
That's a good point.
Yeah, yeah. So they fled there, and then they later went to Nicaragua. So they fled to Mexico with what they could. They started in Nicaragua, and they started basically from scratch. And then Nicaragua went through their own regime change. And basically it says here, they burned the farms. So, talk about hardships trying to create this family history and family business. So, but they didn't give up. They actually fled to Honduras, and then they, entered into, with the fourth generation, Nestor basically ended up back in Nicaragua and Honduras. And in the 80s, they were producing about 1 million cigars a year for other people. So they're growing, producing, manufacturing all these cigars for other people. And then they had the Honduran farms. They basically, within 10 years, went from $1 million cigars produced to about over 30 million cigars produced in a decade.
Yeah.
Wow. Between the two farms. And then now where we're at now, and Plasencia actually has come on the market more recently with their own cigars. But it says that just dozens and dozens of brands actually utilize this tobacco. They either buy it and use it, or they actually just what Montecristo, so what Altadis, one of our sponsors, did. They go to Plasencia and they blend with them. Mm-hmm. So it's all their tobacco. They manufacture it, and then they basically, just like a lot of things in this industry, they'll basically put their name on it because they blended it through them, and they're just distributing it. Mm-hmm. So it's very, very cool. As of today, you're at major volume as far as what they're doing. They're basically what they consider one of the largest manufacturers of cigars in the world, which it's phenomenal. And there's just, again, dozens and dozens of different names on the bands that are being produced by Plasencia, not only their own.
Is that a LaFleur Dominican?
In that picture, I'm not sure if that is LaFleur, but there's a lot of names in this list. Rocky has used them a lot. Jay Fuego's used them a lot. So, they've just blown up. And so Nestor and his two sons at this point, there's, for Jake, you can see this, and you guys check it out on their website because they have a lot of that history on there. And that's just a brief part of it. There's a lot in there. And I'd love to get Josh Bentley or Paul Waller on here, people that actually are in that side of the business, that they can actually kind of expand on what the relationship is and how that all works. But I mean, I definitely think that is one of the cooler stories. I mean, we always go back to, we talked about the My Father guys, the Garcia family. We've talked about the Puente family. We've talked about the Jason Newman family. I like these types of stories, and this one is, as you can see, is full of hardships. Mm-hmm. You try to, I like it because it also applies to the topic tonight, which is, moving forward, not just moving on. You could easily just flee the country and just be like, all right, we're done in this industry. We're gonna just kind of build up shop doing a totally different thing. We're gonna build widgets now instead of growing tobacco. And they've stuck with it, and they're still very well respected, and clearly they make fantastic cigars. I think the marketing side of things is, on this cigar is the Espada. If you guys have smoked the original Espada, the Espada Oscuro is no different. They kept that branding alive. The boxes are gorgeous. We should have brought one out on there.
Yeah.
I dropped the ball there. The original one had like a suede top to it. It's 10-count box. This has like a felt type box
really?
top. Yeah, still the same size. Gorgeous. It's actually wrapped not only in plastic, it's wrapped in that paper, and then you've got the box underneath. You got to cut open that. You got to cut open this. You got 10 cigars in there. You've got different bands on it that basically take up the entire cigar, which it stands out, and they're easy to take the bands off before it starts smoking.
Yeah, they're pretty nice. The mid band, what would that be called? Mid band? What is that?
For them, it's a secondary band, but it's basically the whole, it's the whole, second, third.
On there.
And it says on the band, like you said, like it's blended by Grupo, is that?
Yeah, Grupos de Maestros, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure by now.
In Dominican Republic, and then made in Nicaragua by Plasencia family, right? So, but didn't it say, they have like 4 to 8 factories now?
Yeah, the 8 factories, yeah.
So is that
or 8 plantations, 4 factories, yeah.
Okay.
Honduras and Nicaragua.
Okay.
See that there.
It was interesting.
What do you guys think of the cigar?
I love it. I really do. I think it's got the right notes for me.
This is a lot better than the Churchill.
Oh, I think so. So this is the Robusto size. They've got different names for all of them, but this is the 5x56.
I'm really happy about
I believe
it too, because I wasn't too impressed with the
original,
the Churchill. So they have a, what is it, 7x56?
7x56, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a big freaking.
This is like a 5x54.
Yeah, and it.
I straight cut it. What do you guys do here?
I straight
cut.
Yeah. No, I like
Usually mine's a little crooked, but.
I like the flavor on this though a lot better. There's I'm all about rich flavors normally. You know that, Steve. So I think that.
Based on the conversation with the whiskeys too, honestly.
Yeah, and I just like bold flavors. That doesn't mean bitter. It just means I like a lot of flavors. So with the Churchill, I got a lot of bitterness out of it. I wasn't getting the rich, creamy, what I thought I was going to get out of it. But now, what I expected originally is what I'm getting out of the Robusto size. So I really like this, and I think it goes well with the whiskey. Actually,
Jake, do you think it's better than the original?
Mm-mm.
And say that again for people out there. It's like,
do you think it's better than the original?
Yeah, and that's the question that we always get as retailers and people that smoke these cigars.
I don't think so, but
I do.
You do?
That's my personal opinion.
But I know you like the bold.
I do.
So that's what I mean.
Come on, man.
That's what I mean.
I like spice.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though.
Yeah.
So it's interesting when you talk to people, especially in this realm, like whiskey, cigars. It depends on people's palates.
Yeah.
So I'm all about bold. I like this, but I like the creaminess and the velvetiness of the original Espada.
Mm-hmm.
So I like this a lot, and I think I think this is a great marketing technique because they're diving into that medium to full flavor, and they're adding the people in with the spice. So the people that have been smoking the Espadas forever, and they love them, and they like Montecristo, they're diving into a bolder category.
Yeah, I think the original Espada, and first I was looking at this, the way you read it, it threw me off here, but so the Grupos de Maestros is actually the people they're from Altadis, right? That's the Montecristo brand, right?
Oh, okay.
So it's blended by them in the DR. However, it's all Nicaraguan and made by a Nicaraguan, so it's made in the Plasencia family. So you know what I mean? So they're tying in 2 different countries.
Do you think I was just saying some shit?
No. I don't recall actually reading this secondary band. It's just interesting that they say that, and there's a bunch of signatures that you can't read. It looks like scribble basically at that point. But I think that they both stand on their own. I think the Espada and the Espada Oscuro, it's not just the fact that they changed up the wrap relief. I mean, this one's got that. And Jake, see if you recall where you've heard this. It's got that Habano Rosado Oscuro.
Yes, sir.
There you go. So I mean that leaf is used a lot of times, and Oscuro means, for those of you that are out there, who knows what Oscuro means?
I have no idea.
And
I do not. I do not.
So when you're looking at these things, yeah, it's similar shade, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just making sure.
So Oscuro, I mean, so when you look at the shades of this, you've got that like Connecticut shade is typically given to like the lighter wrap relief, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you hear Colorado shade, have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's more of like that right there, mid-brown, medium brown type of a shade. And then you have basically the Maduro. And Maduro, for a lot of times, it's used for marketing a lot of times. But you have that darker, it's dark shade. That's the thing. Like you hear I've got a Connecticut, I got a Corojo, and I got a Maduro. This is or a Connecticut, Habano, Maduro. And these are the three different like blends that I'm gonna put out.
Yeah.
Oscuro is darker than Maduro by color shade, by definition. So that's where they're using this. It's not quite black, but it's either done by using something that's been out in the sun longer. It's done by the fermentation process. There's a lot of different ways, but a lot of it is, back in the day, there was, people were, accusing companies of like basically like painting their wrap relief to make it darker and darker and darker. And I've had those cigars over the years that as I'm drawing on it and everything like that, and looking at it, like around my fingers and thumb and right there, it's like it's rubbing off almost.
You still get that with like the oils.
Some of you do
cigars
with the
like
oils,
this.
but there were some that were blatant, and that's where this is the Oscuro. This is that dark shade wrapper.
Yeah.
And so they use that Habano Rosado Oscuro wrapper leaf on this, and then the rest of it's the Nicaraguan tobacco. And it's interesting when I hear you guys talking about like the bold flavors. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's that this cigar, a handful of others, that it's richer.
Yeah.
It's a richer flavor, and it's not saying that the original Espada or other cigars aren't rich in flavor, but it's people talk about that mouthfeel with like the whiskeys and everything like that. It's more of like it's all over the palate. There's no, for me with this cigar, it's hitting all the zones.
The retro hell will mess you up.
Retro Hale is a little peppery.
It's a lot of pepper, man.
Now,
It's a lot of
remind
pepper.
you, Jake's newer to the Retro Hale, so
Yeah, but I've been testing it
I know
on
you have,
a
I
regular
know you have.
basis. That's a lot of freaking pepper, man. So
Clean your slices out.
yeah, it's good though. I like the labeling though. I like that they went with, because it is such a darker wrapper, that they went with a black band.
right.
And then they, not sequenced it, but they put gold in the trim, and it kind of really just,
It's almost like a ticket you would say too. Did you notice that?
yeah, it's like a Charlie Chocolate Factory ticket.
There you go.
It's like a golden ticket, man.
That's quite an analogy there, Jay.
I gotta make it. I gotta do something since I came back.
I think you're doing just fine. And Espada does mean, in a sense, is a certain type of like sword, basically.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, so if
up there, yeah.
Yeah, you see the swords on the band, on the box. They've got that. It looks like almost like one of those. I don't know, like musketeer type swords.
Yeah, yeah.
Very ornate handle.
Yeah.
And a very
Cavalier.
slim,
Kind of like a cavalier.
Cavalier, yeah, exactly. So it's like a cavalier. You get that slim blade all the way up. So it's not like your broad sword or anything like that. But it's very elegant. And I got to tell you, this cigar, since we brought it on, it just landed last week. It just shipped out.
Yeah.
It's selling like crazy. I mean, like people are coming back to it. So if you guys have not tried it yet, this is the time where if you want to capitalize on the Bourbon BS podcast offering, as far as the Tinderbox at Easton, whether you call in, order a box, you order, whatever. We typically say 10 or more. So order a box from us, we'll ship it out to you. Or if you're in the Columbus area or in the Ohio area, you're visiting in the next week between now and Tuesday, this is the time you're going to get 15% off if you mention Bourbon BS podcast. So very hot cigar. Hopefully you don't kill our stock, but this is an opportunity to order this before. So the IPCPR, which is the trade show for the retailers here, coming up in 2 weeks, and I'm pretty sure after that it will be difficult to come by. So enjoy while you can, take advantage of that deal. Very, very, very good cigar.
I love it.
Very enjoyable for me.
Yeah, I do too. It's interesting because thinking towards the BS Silver, because it has the same wrapper leaf, right?
Yeah, essentially.
Essentially, it's got the same quality of that. It's bold and rich, but on the other hand, it's going to kind of contradict myself, but it's got like a dry spice to it.
Yeah.
A little bit.
So that's what I get out of the BS Silvers as well. So it's kind of interesting doing the same, right? I really like it. I like this size better than the Churchill, like I said. What did Rick like it? Rick, my buddy Rick Snyder came in and
Loved it.
He tried it.
He loved it.
He had the Churchill.
No, he had the Robusto.
He had the Robusto.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I first tried the Churchill, it was like I said, it was pretty. It's definitely in your face, and that dry spice was a lot more than what this is.
And mind you were drinking whiskey with it, if I recall.
That's true. No, I wasn't, because I was working.
There you go. I didn't know. I couldn't recall. I couldn't recall when you had it.
Yeah, we don't do that anymore.
But
I like this pairing. I think they stand alone, but
They-
they're definitely
yeah,
really
definitely
good
stand
together.
alone.
They're definitely really good
Yeah.
together. I think.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
well, I just poured a second glass of Cooper's Craft out of the second bottle on the table because Jake and I both brought one of these, so that we are not going to veer off, which is I like because when we're done with this, we're actually going to light up that Romeo San Andres, which we have not had with this whiskey.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see. We kept it when we're looking at the cigars tonight. We're having kind of a bolder night.
We really are. The only thing we're missing is like an LFD, like double layer or something.
I don't know. The Romeo San Andres has got it. It carries its
Do
own.
you still have those? Some of those? Or are those all gone? The ones that I gave you?
Oh no, I do still have those.
You still have some of
I
those?
still have some of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andy was amazing about a year ago, and went out to Oklahoma City when I was out there like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And they had these LFD box press 2016 TAA cigars. So for those that don't know, that's pretty much a small batch, if you will, for the cigar world. What does TAA stand for?
Tobacco Association of America or something like that. So the TAA is a group that you basically, as a retailer, have to be nominated, basically sponsored, right,
Yeah.
by one or maybe two different current members. Typically, shops will be nominated by other retailers, or more likely some of the manufacturers. And something that has kept Tinderbox at Easton out of that is that it's not a big deal as far as the fees involved and everything like that, but part of it is that it's a very active group, and one of the things they do every year is, and I believe it's in the Dominican Republic every year,
Yeah.
you are basically required, if you miss one of the get-togethers, one of the meetings, right, so you have to go down there, it helps you get these cigars, right, that are exclusive to TAA shops.
Yeah.
And it's something that they do have other, just like any other body of a group, as far as what they're striving for to support the industry and everything else. This is something that if you miss, I think it's if you miss 2 in a row, possibly 2 at all, but I think it's 2 in a row, 2 years in a row, as far as going down to the get together down at DR, you're going to be asked to leave. So it's a very active thing. So that's one of the things that, shop our size, we do a lot of business. We have a small staff. So for someone to represent Tinderbox at Easton down at the TAA gathering every year, it's a task. It's a daunting task that sometimes you're not going to be able to make because you're running a retail store.
Right.
It's an expense.
The other thing I look at, and I like what they do with TAA, I like the purpose of it, but one of the things that we were talking with Alec Rubin, who was on a while back, not too long ago, when we were talking about it, he was like, yeah, we'll sponsor you, we'd love to have you on TAA. One of the things I said to him is that it's interesting because as a TAA retailer, it's fantastic, it's like another feather in the cap type thing, but it's something we can also offer these exclusive to our customers.
Yeah.
But some of the TAA members are big online presences.
Yeah.
So nothing against them, but you can go on and order the TAA specials from some of these online stores, and so it kind of pollutes that. That's my understanding of it. So I think it's a great organization. I think there's a lot of good, unique blends that come out every year with that, but unfortunately, as a retailer, there's a little hesitation in joining for those reasons. Which is fine because there's other organizations to be a part of, and you can support the industry in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
But this is something that where you get into it, you're like, we're not going to do it because of A, B, or C.
Yeah.
No offense, no, disrespect. We love the organization. We'd love to be able to do it, but we just can't do it based on our capabilities.
Yeah. Well, anyways, Andy was really nice and went out and got me a box and gave it to me. And they were really freaking good.
I was just curious if you still had any
Oh yeah,
left.
man! I told you, when Andy did that, I told him that whenever he was with me, he'd never have to worry about a drink.
It's true.
Because I always had whiskey on me.
That's
So
fantastic.
yeah. So we kind of made that pact.
I like it. I like it.
But it's interesting to hear that about the TAA, because even though that it's, like you said, like it's taken away from the industry itself, because it is polluted about.
It's not taken away from it. I'm saying it takes away the incentive for us as a retailer to get involved.
Yeah, but what about, I mean, my only question is like, because I don't see a lot of like the people that do come in the shop doing that.
No, I agree with that. Like,
I
we
mean,
had them, we'd probably sell them.
I don't know one person besides my dad that shops on online cigar.
No, I think quite a few people do, and there's nothing against that. I mean, the online retail presence, I think, is important for the industry because it does actually promote, cigar smoking, and they have a lot of backing there as far as, reasons for some of these manufacturers to be able to pump out even more cigars and support that inside of the industry because you reach more people. In a lot of parts of the country, especially here in the U.S., you have a lot of areas that they don't have a big brick and mortar presence. So they have one store, but it's fucking 50 minutes away, and they got to drive all that way to see what they have in stock, or they can just order online and it's shipped. It's the same thing of, like, for me, ordering from Amazon. I could go over to Home Depot, I can go over to the local hardware store, or if I just need a couple light bulbs, and I don't need them like right now, but I'm like, I need to get a couple light bulbs, go on Amazon, do a quick search, they're here in 2 days.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I obviously from a retail standpoint, I would rather people go to the brick and mortar, but I'm not saying it necessarily hurts the industry. It's more of the incentive, much like in this industry with cigars, the IPCPR, you hear every year that, attendance has been down for our trade show. And again, for us at the Tinderbox with Easton, we're able to get the deals, most of the deals, like 90% of the deals on the cigars without attending the IPCPR, where years ago it's like, oh, you get these deals if you attend the show and we can show you all the new stuff. And depending on where you're at in your history, if you've got the accounts already set up, you know what I mean, like we already have an Altadis account, so we don't need to go out and see Josh in Vegas unless we want to go out and have dinner with Josh and have a couple days away from the shop. But again, given our size and our staff, it is a daunting task to get away for 4 days or 3 days or whatever it might be, to go out and meet with all these guys that we're just going to meet with.
That's you.
I wasn't going to say anything, but
the other side of it is, I'll say this, is that so for us to go out there, you think about it, right? So smart business will tell you with some of these things, like especially with,
love that, Andy.
It's a great experience. I've been out there, but it's one of those things that I get it. So to spend $1,000, $2,000 to get out to Vegas for a few days, right, and get out of the shop, that $2,000, if you're not having to be required to be out there to get these deals, that's $2,000 worth of cigars that you could purchase that then you sell to the customers.
Yeah.
As opposed to doing it on your own dime and going out there and saying, all right, this is going to be a fun few days. That's the difference. And when you've been established, Tinderbox has been there for 20 years, we don't necessarily need to be there. Yeah. If you're starting off and you want to set up some new accounts, you want to bring out some boutique brands, you don't have representation coming into your store, absolutely worth the money. Yeah. If you can afford to be out of your store.
Right.
So there's a lot of conflicts there. And when you take away some of the incentives, like I said, that's where you really you struggle. It doesn't take away from the industry as much as it does with the TAA stuff. If we could just be a part of it and pay a fee and buy from these manufacturers on the regular like we do already, and then by contributing to the TAA organization through either funds or through filling out surveys or whatever they need us to do, we can do that. But if you require us to leave the shop every year for a 4-day trip, that's where we will fall off because we have a staff of 7 people, and we're open 7 days a week, and we, on an average day see anywhere between 100 and 200 customers a day.
Right.
You can't leave the store.
Yeah. Let me ask this one question. I know we need to be getting on the topic, but much like we do with the whiskey, how there's different ways to taste it. Like some people like slosh around their mouth and they chew it, like we've heard of like Booker No used to be doing and stuff like that. And there's different ways to nose it, certain ways, different directions. I've been messing around with the fact of like smoking a cigar like on different sides of my mouth. Do you ever do that, Steve?
Not typically on different sides of my mouth, no.
Okay, you just do it like straight on normally, and it. Have you
Whatever,
ever?
like, yeah, straight on. Sometimes to the side. Sometimes I'll like kind of have it hanging out the side of my mouth and just keep puffing on it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My biggest thing is once it's lit, that's where the retrohale comes in. It's the different ratios of how much you push out of the mouth and versus retrohaling. I'll even do a full, just blow it through the nose, almost all of it,
Yeah.
which sometimes is a lot. So you change that ratio. I think, when you talk about the nose and everything else, that I do enjoy, before you light it, those are the process. That's the process that you can do. You smell the wrapper leaf, you smell the foot of the cigar. You try to do in different nostrils, right?
Yeah.
Cut the cigar, do some dry draws off of it before you light it. You can do that where you're kind of sucking on the tobacco before even any flame goes to it, so you get some of the dry notes and stuff like that. So there's definitely a process through that. So we can do that. Actually, I think that's a great idea for like the next week or the following, before we smoke a cigar, before we get to not to the secondary cigar as far as the Altadis cigar, but the actual featured cigar. Before we light up and everything like that, maybe we can go through some of those and see if we get anything from that. The different nose of it, the different dry draws.
Well, it wasn't even that. What I like that idea. I've just been messing around with it, like putting it in one side of my mouth and sticking it on the other side, and getting like big, slow draws. I get different tastes from the different sides of my tongue, if you will.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I encourage if people want to mess around with it to do that. I think it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
It adds to the experience, right?
Absolutely.
So.
No, I mean, it's always about trying different things, and I like that. That's definitely kind of good thinking, in my opinion.
Yeah. So right now we're saving it, as you know, on Facebook Live. We encourage you at this time to share this. We're going to start our topic tonight, which is again.
Moving forward over just moving on.
Yeah.
But I had something to add, Steve, about you were talking about the family moving, and I think
We're not recording yet. Do you want to do it on video?
well, it don't matter. I mean, but it all starts with the passion.
Starts with the passion.
Starts with the passion.
I like that.
One of the things I like about this too is that when you watch the Facebook Live, and this is not being recorded on the podcast. When you watch the Facebook Live, you watch the YouTube, it's a little more raw, in the beginning and all that stuff. But when you get into it, I mean, when we save it before the podcast, I think you get a little bit different view of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I like the fact that if you guys listen to the podcast, if you listen to the Facebook Live or the YouTube, I mean, definitely help us out and watch both, if you will. And you can even scrub forward to the point of the episode where that we don't. When we're saving it, because there's a lot of times there's conversation, there's jokes or whatever it is, or there's different aspects of it that you're going to get from the video versus the audio.
Yeah.
Which, so I definitely check that out, subscribe, and do all that stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're breaking right now? Is that
Well, I was recording. What do you need?
Oh, jeez.
You want to hit the head?
I didn't know where we were at.
You can hit the head if you want to. Yeah, go ahead.
Is that all right?
Yeah. So for those of you at home, if you need to hit the head right now as well, join Andy in the bathroom. And, we can go ahead. I'll edit that part out if need be, or I might just leave it in. Who knows?
It worked.
So any questions so far tonight? I know we've got a lot of people tuning in and out, and I know Wednesday nights can be a bit busy for everyone, but we appreciate the view count going up and up and up. So
Tyler Jones is supposed to be here, and I know he just tuned in. Where you at, man? Might have something going on. He's got a birthday, I think, next Tuesday.
is that right?
Or
Nice.
2 Tuesdays
Tyler,
from
happy
now.
birthday.
Yeah. So.
So we'll do this not necessarily in the audio, but for those listening, this is a great opportunity. I mean, I know you have started exploring, Jake, some of the options with rolling barrel tours.
Yeah.
As far as, you started discussions, you started doing a little work for them and seeing if you can help grow the business, which I think is fantastic. So Rolling Barrel Tours was on here, is that the one before you left?
Yeah.
4 weeks ago.
5
So
weeks ago.
yeah, 4 or 5 weeks ago we had a guest on here, and I remember vividly as we're having this conversation, you're like, where's my application?
Yeah. No,
Fast forward a month and you're already in talks with them and kind of going down a potential path there.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to do it, and it'll lead me to entering that world that I want to be in with the whiskey world. So ultimately, in my mind, it's being with them. It would allow me to network and talk to the people that are actually in the bourbon world down in Kentucky. So that's kind of the mindset that I have. And sometimes, unfortunately, not based on money, you have to take 2 steps back to gain 4 steps forward. So
Yeah, definitely.
or however you want to do the division on that. So, but it's definitely going to be a ride, I think. But it's definitely intriguing to do, and we'll see how it goes. I think that when we had Becca on and Rolling Barrel Tours, I think that there was an idea that Steve and I had that from what she said, and it's there's a lot more intricacies once I've came into the business itself. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be figured out with Rolling Barrel Tours, but it's a great thing. Look it up.
It's exciting.
So it's basically a travel agency for the Bourbon Trail down in Kentucky, and they specialize in whiskey tastings, and everyone that is accompanied with it is a certified bourbon steward, a part of the Stave and Thief Whiskey Society. So there's a lot of knowledge there. Luckily, just based on my passion, like what Andy said, I knew a lot of the stuff that was in the book already. There was like a few things I didn't know, but it was just dates and stuff, and it's a lot of fun. So we'll see where it goes. It's definitely going to be a struggle throughout, but hopefully when
Good struggle.
it gets through it, it'll be something to look back on and say I'm glad I did. So I'm excited.
So we already have one on here. Eric, and forgive me, Eric Carico says when you come down, stay here. He sends a link and send it to us on our messenger too, so we can have that, Eric. But he's got an Airbnb down there. He says I work with the folks at Bland. So interesting.
All right.
Interesting. So Eric, thank you for sharing that. We're gonna get back to recording the podcast, but send that to us if you could on our private messenger, that link that you've got there, so that we can take a look at that. That's fantastic.
Yes, thank you, Eric.
Andy, you all good?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic.
So moving forward over, not just moving on, is that I still
No.
haven't got it. You've said it twice and I still don't have it.
That's, so I'll tell you this. So
At least I'm being honest. I care. I promise I
It's almost
care.
like a damn riddle, isn't it?
it's not. I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this because too often, and with this topic, and so when I first when we were first talking about it, Jake, and it's something that with a topic like this, I think it's important to keep the negative out of it, right? And maybe that's a semantics thing, but when you're looking at that, and we're looking at the things I said at first, it's not about moving on, it's about moving forward. But then I thought about it more, and when we were discussing this, it's like it isn't. It's not about moving on, because I think there's an important aspect of it. So when we're framing this conversation, I'm of the opinion that you keep the negative words out of it, and that's where the actual topic, based on all the things we posted, is it's moving forward over just moving on.
Yeah.
So it's not just moving on. I mean, that's the way we can talk about it, but when you look at the topic, I want to make sure that even though we might talk about a little bit of the negative circumstances or negative situations or things that come up, right? That's where the moving on things. You need to move on. You need to do that stuff. But when we're talking about this, it's moving forward over just moving on.
So why? And I love your ideological sense on the subject. I'm just trying to figure out what is the bad part about keeping the negative in there? Is it just is it one of those things where, because there are people out there that are like all negativity, like if I'm around it, like I'm leaving. Like if someone's like talking negatively, like they just
drains on you.
They just like leave the table.
It drains on you.
So is that what you're going at, or what's?
I'm saying when you are in a situation, the negativity, if you keep it out of the conversation for the most part about the process of moving on, because when you move on a lot, for me and for many things, is moving on is I equate it to mostly when something bad happens. happens, whether it be you lose a job or you're not happy with that. A lot of the negative sides of it. You go through a breakup. Someone breaks your heart. Someone cheats on you. You have a problem. It's on your end. You lose a job, and then all of a sudden you lose a house, and you do all this. You're dwelling in the negativity of it. So for me, it's reminding yourself to continue moving forward.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter. I mean, there is that negative aspect in a lot of these situations. But when you go through, say, a breakup, if you're constantly being told and reminding yourself that we need to move on, you need to move on, you need to move on, you're moving on from a negative situation, but that's your driving factor. When I hear, and again, maybe it's a semantics thing for me, when I hear moving forward, moving on and moving forward is about the positive. It's about what you're building, not what you're leaving behind.
All right.
And so that's where I was saying, like, when you're trying to frame these things, I don't want to necessarily walk into the conversation as there's a negative word in there. There's the not part. And that's, for me, it's the frame of the way of thinking. So when you talk about moving forward over just moving on is a part of it. That might be the driving factor, right? That you are moving away from a negative situation.
That sounds to me, I understand moving forward, taking whatever's negative and then moving forward and separating yourself from that and moving forward. Moving on, to me, correct me if I understand, moving on, there's whatever that is, career, relationship, there's some negativity, but we're moving on with it. Is that
I mean, so again, this might just
however you want to interpret it.
It is.
Honestly.
It is.
I think.
Moving on from something. Right? So you're moving on from, and again, you're bringing that on, and so there's that where if you're consuming yourself with negativity, then you're moving on from whatever is causing the negativity, which there is benefit to that. Don't get me wrong. I think that's something that's the beginning of it. Where moving forward over just moving on is that you are focused on what the opportunities are, not what you're moving away from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, if you want to go to like the basic one, would be say, you're going through a breakup. So everyone in this garage, and it doesn't apply, and I've been through a lot. We can get into some personal things and everything like that, but we're all in happy relationships. We're in successful, happy relationships right now. So talking about that stuff, we've all been through breakups in the past. We've had some bad situations and all of that stuff. One of the things that I know that I had a shortcoming of going into that, coming out of some of these things, like I've been divorced, and that was a different situation. I was in an on and off relationship, and there were a lot of times where more often it was me reminding myself to move on. And moving on is I'm of the opinion that moving on is a short-term way of thinking. This is not something that fixes things. So, for example, going into relationships, if you wanted to talk about that, is that if you're consumed by the negativity because something bad has happened, whether you caused it or someone else did, and that's the same thing with jobs and everything else, but with relationships, it's something that if you're just moving on, you keep reminding your friends are telling you, like, hey man, like come out for drinks. You need to move on. You need to move on from this. Like it's done with. The whole conversation is based on the negativity. It's based on that negative connotation of what your efforts are based on, right? So I think a lot of people, I think that's where I see it as a shortcoming or short-term approach of moving forward.
Okay.
So moving on is literally just like, hey man, like she treated you wrong, she cheated on you, she's not who you need to be, you're not happy, whatever it is, whatever level it is from that. And jobs are the same way. It's like they're not treating you right, you're not getting paid enough, they're treating you poorly, they treat you like shit, you're not happy, all you do is complain about this relationship, this job, the car you drive, whatever it might be, it could be materialistic things, you know what I mean? You need to, like, it's all right, man, like, we're gonna get through this. You need to move on. As long as there is that's where the moving forward over just moving on part of it is, you look at the stuff that we're talking about with Placencia. Moving on would be he leaves Cuba, goes to Mexico, and then just, like I said earlier, like he starts doing something else. The family starts doing something else. You're moving on. where they had that drive, they had that passion, like you said, Andy. So now it's like, no, we're moving forward. We're moving on, yeah, but like, no, we're going. We're moving forward.
Yeah.
This shit happened, and it's not a good situation, but we can either dwell on it or try to force yourself. That's the other thing. Moving on is more like I'm forcing myself not to dwell on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is what Andy said. I like the way that you interpreted it.
Absolutely.
Where you said it's like moving forward is saying that you're actually leaving whatever the negative was behind, and you're actually moving forward. But moving on would be you're moving on and also bringing the negativity with you.
Yeah.
So,
Because that's the thing. Yeah.
I like the way that you interpreted that.
Yeah.
So whether you start a new job, and there's no problem in my opinion that you can use that experience, whatever it might be, whatever arena we're in, and use that as the drive. But again, that's short term. You know what I mean? When you see people, that go through, they get fired, they go through a breakup or whatever it might be, and it's one of these things that it's like, all right, I got fired, so now I've got to really I'm gonna further my education. I'm gonna really push it and try to push forward through a career, and I'll show them.
Right.
Moving on, a lot of times I think there's I'll show them mentality. When you go
that
through a breakup,
fires up a lot of people, though. And there
it
is
does.
a positive there.
I agree, and that's where I'm saying that's the short term. But I feel like there's a lot of people that will just keep dwelling on that, and then so you get into a new relationship, for example, and I'll show them. You're still dwelling on the person that you were with.
Yeah.
So that next relationship, a lot of times, or the next job, or whatever it might be, the next step is polluted by the fact that you're just moving on. You're just like, I'll show them. I'm not going to let this affect me. I'm better than that. I'm going to do this. But it's the only reason you're saying you're better than that is because you've been hurt by this previous situation, and you're still dwelling on that. You have not truly moved forward. You've not healed. You've not allowed yourself to actually focus on the next steps ahead of you and enjoy those steps, because you're still comparing. You're still thinking back in the past, because all you did was move on.
Yeah.
And maybe this is too much a semantics thing.
Maybe it is. I mean, I respect like what you're saying. For me, I think it's one of those situations where it's more just honing in, right? It's about the plan that you always talk about, Steve.
I talk about sticking to the plan and moving forward.
Yeah, but the moving forward is the plan. It's not like, I feel the way I'm interpreting it is that moving on is just moving on with whatever. Moving forward, you have a plan.
Right. I agree.
So the way that I'm thinking about it in my head is I agree with that. It's just, I think some people out there, however, that moving forward isn't always just what fires them up to do that. I think there's some people out there that allow themselves to get bogged down, but the only way to get them out of the hole is that they have to say, screw that guy, like, I'm going to show them. It fires them up, and then, like, after however long, the dwelling, like, it's not the most rational way of doing it, but if it works for, like, me, for instance, like, I'm not in the best situation in my life right now, but
right.
I think that for me, I have to get fired up enough about something and to say fuck them and screw them and whatever. I have to get mad to be able to get myself out of a hole. And then once I get over that hump, then I'm finally saying to myself, okay, I don't really think about my past. I don't think about that negative anymore. But and you hear that a lot in a lot of motivational speakers, is that, it showed them and I don't always think that's the right way. It depends. And we look at it differently like that, and I know that.
Well,
it's just interesting.
Yeah, part of the reason I really wanted to push for the way that we framed this discussion is because, as I've said, the moving on function for people is the beginning.
Right.
It's moving forward over just moving on.
Yeah.
And that's where I went away from it's not about moving on, it's about moving forward, because I think that's too much of a cliche. I think both sides of it serve a purpose. I actually think that sometimes there's a step one and a step two. But if people are just focusing on, I'm going to move on from this thing, that saying that in an instance, and a year later you're saying, yeah, I've moved on from that. You're still bringing that conversation back to what the previous step was, what the previous hurt was, what the previous obstacle was, what the whole reason. You're not, and I'm not saying forget it, I'm saying focus on the new aspects of it. Yeah. And that's the moving forward part.
Yeah.
So that in whatever it is, 5 months, 5 years, whatever it is, when someone asks you about it, and this is a personal struggle that I've dealt with sometimes, but you are at terms with, you've come to terms with what happened in the past, and you can talk about it logically without that passion anymore. You lose that, I'm moving on from that you were talking about, that hate, fuck them, all that stuff. Yeah. If I talk to you in 5 years, you can say, yeah, you know what, fuck them, you know what I mean, but you're a lot lighter about it. You're like, that was a shitty situation, you know what I mean, like, when we talk about, like, even like what we're talking about with the business side of it, you talk about the BS cigars. Yeah. I'm not happy with the way the BS Gold project has gone, and right now, if there's a little more passion, there's a moving on, but it's really about moving forward, and that's the mentality that I've got with Brian, is that, no, we're not going to change anything. Yeah. So that's the past. We're not going to go back to that. If I get into a conversation with someone that's involved in that previous process, at the very most, like, oh, I'm happy to see things worked out. If I want to, I have no problem with, I'm not going to cause a big scene, but it's like, no, you guys fucked up, like, then we moved on. We moved forward. Yeah. We kept going forward. You guys couldn't hold your end, no hard feelings, but yeah, that was a bullshit move. Facts of the matter. No emotion, bullshit move.
But see, I take that as a little lightly, like, it's just the moving on, like.
Well, what is it? No, I'm saying that is the move. We kept moving forward. This
I know.
This partnership has been soiled. It's been terminated.
I know.
We either piss and moan and fucking kick in our room and just lock the door and not talk to anyone. And it's like, you want to keep doing this? No, I don't want. No, leave me alone. I'll be out.
So it sounds like a moving forward event.
That's what I'm saying. That's like you're just pouting. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm gonna force it. When I'm saying this, if I see that individual or whatever in the business side of it, if I see people at my old job, 2 Men in a Truck, I am not happy with the way that all went down. But I also know I didn't handle it the best way. Mm-hmm. So I can actually, when I see him on social media, if I see him in person or whatever, it's like, hey, I'm happy things are working out for you, because things are working out for me. It's not like a spiteful thing. It's not about that. It's like it's simply about the fact that I have continued to grow as a person. Right. I've continued to grow the life. Yeah. Because we have a finite time on this earth, and the longer that you just stay in that first stage of moving on, which is what I was saying.
40.
We're looking at 40.
We're looking at it, staring it right in the eye.
So if you were
in our time, it's like really short.
Yeah. So I mean, it's one of those things. If you want to keep dwelling on the past and hold on to that grudge or anger, that's just going to exhaust some of your energy. When you talk to Jake about negativity, I mean, negativity is very consuming, and it's a very exhausting side of it. It will drain your energy faster. You need, like you said, if you're surrounded by it, you're going to leave that. You're going to leave it. Yeah. You're going to remove yourself from the situation because it's very unhealthy.
Yeah. Well, and I've just started doing that.
That's good.
But life's too short to hold on to negativity.
Absolutely.
You either got to cut ties, move on, or you move forward, or if you can work with the negativity, then move on. Yeah. That's what I think. But,
yeah.
But
see, that's where I am. Like, and Steve knows this, and maybe I get a. It's really bad to say, and I'm not emotionally.
Well, life ain't perfect.
I know. And I'm not emotionally like as mature as you guys, and I'm not. That is fact. That's not like me dumbing myself down. That's fact. So, in my mind, I actually diagnosing myself. I think that I get a high off of being mad because it allows me to do things that I wouldn't do otherwise because I don't feel comfortable. For instance, if say that I got fired, I'm pissed because the job sucked. I didn't want to be there anyways, and and then they have the audacity to fire me. You know, it's kind of those like classic movie scenes that like, you didn't fire me, I quit. You know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's for me. It allows me to force myself to get fired up to do something. I'm not saying that I'm lazy. I'm just saying that I'm one of those people that need to get fired up about something. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean I look for it. It's just that when it does happen, it allows me to do stuff I wouldn't do otherwise.
Mm-hmm. So you got to be in a sort of pinched in a corner. So to speak.
Yeah, honestly, and it's sad to say that, but it just that's one thing that I've diagnosed about myself, that it happens. You hear. Do you follow Gary Vee at all? Steve does sometimes, and he's one of those people that he says he likes to lose. And it's interesting for me to hear that, because it's like, I get it.
But why?
Why? The why.
That's the important part. You can't just end it as you like.
You don't continue through life
okay.
losing.
Okay.
Well, no.
You want to win.
When you want to win, but when you lose, it's a new beginning to then fire you up. And I think that a lot of people that have made it in their life and that are comfortable, and they get comfortable, and then there's nothing to be upset about. And then they're just going through their days. Or me, I don't think that even if that did happen, that if I ever got like really, really comfortable and like had like $1 million, lived on the perfect house, perfect plantation, or whatever that I wanted to be on, I would find something to make me mad just to feel that again. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I think being mad, being upset, and going through the failures, there are lessons to be learned.
Sure.
And that's where I go back to this, is that, again, focusing on the moving forward part, it's using what you learned.
Yes.
Yes, there is a high to that, but it's funny when you use that term, it's like a high for me, and then when you talk about seeking that out again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but there's an aspect of that, is that, and maybe I'm oversimplifying what you just said, Jake, is that when you go through this and you're like, oh, I'm in this beautiful home, I got this beautiful wife, beautiful family, I got all this stuff going on, and all you're doing is looking for something to piss you off to get that drive again, that's where I don't know if it's healthy or not healthy, or if it's a motivator or what, but I would say don't look for it and continue to move forward and build off the successes you have, because trust me, no matter how successful you are, there will be another failure right around the corner. Yeah. Small or large.
But that's the glory about it.
It's not, for me, it's not a glory about being pissed off again. And maybe that's where, some people differ.
That's where we differ.
It's literally about the opportunity to do something better or do it differently.
Right.
Yeah, but I think that's semantics.
No, it's not.
One way, and then
I can be frustrated, I can be, heartbroken and everything like that, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want to dwell on that, because again, maybe that is what you're talking about. It's not a maturity thing, but Andy brought up the age thing. Is again, you look at the finite things. Like, the quicker that you can grow and heal from something and know the importance of that, as opposed to wasting your time being mad and really, being angry at something. You just waste an entire day or longer, or a year, or however long it takes. Not you, but like someone can, where it's not going to drive you. You get sucked down into that high, and that's what's so interesting about that term, the high.
That's the scary part, though. So
what's the scary?
You bring up a good part. You bring up a good point. Is that's the trick, right? Is if you are one of those people that they live on a high of not wanting to fail. It's not like they purposely seek it out, like what I said, but if it happens, they kind of look forward to it, because that is a sense of, we're saying one and the same thing. It's that if you, I mean, it is one and the same. If it doesn't happen,
seek the failures. I don't think that's what.
I misspoke. It's not that you're seeking to fail, but when it happens, it's another drive force.
Yeah, there's an opportunity there.
So it's not that I would be seeking to it, but when it does happen, it's another chance for me to do it better the next time. So I guess to the way that you look at it, that's what I meant.
Gotcha.
But it's like, that's the scary slope, is that you can be one of those people, but you can also get sucked down into it. So it's important to understand yourself and know when you're falling down into that hole of I'm not doing anything, I'm not really moving forward, I'm just dwelling on it, then the other side is that you're pissed off, but you are moving forward and you're leaving it behind you. Like you're using it as a motivator.
I mean, I
Does that
understand
make
it's a
sense?
motivator, but life's too short to be pissed off.
I know.
You know, for me, I could, you know, and we talked about this before, is when I got fired from my you know, from a particular job, and I could have been disgruntled, but I took that experience as a learning experience and brought it to the next application of a new job, and I excelled.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have the drive, you gotta have the ambition.
Yeah.
You gotta, you know, you gotta have the passion.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. The whole, I believe in karma, and life's too short to be hating. And if you hate and you're disgruntled, you bring down the other people around you, and it's just not a healthy environment.
Yeah, I get it. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just.
No,
This is me being
open discussion.
as honest as possible.
Open
I mean, we
discussion.
all have flaws. We're human beings. Everybody has flaws. But you just, you just got to recognize, you know, moving forward or moving on. I guess you got to know that breaking point of when to cut ties.
And that's a good.
No
point.
matter if it's an employer or whether if it's a relationship, you got to know that breaking point of when to cut ties. You know, and whether move on, move forward. If an opportunity comes that is better,
Yeah.
you've got to take it. You know, whether, you know, definitely in the professional arena as far as, you know, in a career.
Well, moving forward, let's talk about something positive, like the fact that you're getting married, man.
Well, actually, yeah, I want to take an
I
angle
mean-
at that. I'm going to ask you a question. You said that you're open book, right?
I'm open book.
What were you going to say?
Lay it on
I'm
me.
sorry. I got to ask you a question a certain way in a minute here.
No, I was just thinking, what was going through your head when? I mean, I don't mean that as a negative. I mean that as a positive. Like, what was the light switch that
Well,
said,
just give you a little
let's do this?
Just give you a little background. I dated this girl for 3 years.
Yeah.
I call it. I took a 1.5 year vacation from
Yeah.
her,
Yeah.
and you know, I was in a pretty, you know, was in a pretty bad spot, and you know, relationship wise, and you know, I had the job. You know, I was traveling all over the country. I thought I achieved everything that I wanted to achieve. But within achieving success, having everything that you want, material items, possessions, or, you know, it can still be a dark place.
I like that.
You know, you know, this damn Brazilian guy, I don't know if you know him.
No.
So he's like a professional gambler, but he was a former Navy SEAL.
Okay.
And I don't know a lot about this guy, but he's a professional gambler. But he flies on. He's got his own private jet now, and you know, he's got surrounded by beautiful women constantly.
Do you mind speaking up just for
Yeah.
live?
So this guy named Dan Brazilian, you know,
Oh,
he's you know.
You flew Dan Brazil?
I did not. No,
Oh.
he's got his own airplane.
Oh.
I just found out about this guy this week. A gentleman was talking about him, but you know, this guy, nobody would even know about him if it weren't for, you know, Facebook, Instagram.
Dude, his social media is crazy.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know
he's
exactly
good.
what you're
I
talking
think a lot
about.
of people know what you're talking
So,
about.
you know, the guy's already had 2 heart. He's what? He's on, I think, in his early 40s, I think.
If
He's in
that.
his 40s.
And
He's really in
had
shape.
Yeah, he's already had 2 heart attacks.
He's in really good shape.
2 heart
too.
attacks.
Like
That is a-
physically.
yeah, that's a part of it.
He looks really good in shape.
You know, that lifestyle only gets you so far.
Yeah.
You know, and I got to taste a little bit of it.
Yeah.
And this is not what I want.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was I think by the grace of God that Cher reached out to me. I was at a pretty dark place.
This is
And,
your current fiance.
yeah, and she reached out to me, and you know, and You know, I didn't share none of this with any of the guys at the shop.
I don't know this.
I know a bit of it. We've had a couple heart to hearts.
But
it was before I fell over a chair and you slept at the house.
So you guys were talking about this last time when I wasn't here.
So Andy said something to me that really, really stood out, and I think he's getting to that. Go on.
oh, feel free to chime in.
No, I'm waiting for you to get to that chapter, buddy.
But you know, I just, you know, I don't live Dan Brazilian's life, but I always lived in the shadows of these people when I was flying. I flew A-list celebrities, Neil Patrick Harris to Jenny McCarthy, Donnie Wahlberg.
Andy Dalton.
No, I didn't
Oh,
fly
that was
him.
you. I thought you said that.
Hung out with him a few times.
That's what it was.
That's cool.
But you know, you live that life, and it's a dark place, man. And you can be standing on top of the world, but you're still empty. And
Is it because you can't connect with people like that, or what's the dark place? You feel alone. Why? How do you feel alone in an arena like that?
I think for me it was. I think for me it was just I was constantly worked all the time.
Okay.
And when you work a man to the bone.
Yeah. You work, party. You work and play harder, right?
My life was a party.
Yeah.
It was a party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a man told me one time, he said, Andy, you can go to 40,000 feet, but you can't live at 40,000 feet. And so.
Is he like an executive pilot or something that's like been in the.
No, man.
No, or is this like a rich old dude?
He's just a normal man who's a mentor to me.
I like that.
Very nice.
And
like that.
and he kind of keeps me grounded, but so when I said, man, when he said that to me, I was like, it was so relevant, so crystal clear. I'm like, you are so right, you know, because he deals with a lot of musicians.
Yeah.
And you know, it's, you know, musician, you know, that sings on stage all the time. You can be at that place, but you can't live there.
Right.
And
Makes sense.
So what you were talking about, well, I can have my $1 million house, my 5-car garage, or you know, have my beautiful wife, but there's still some I want. I still want. I still want to get mad, ticked off, so I have something to achieve. You can be at that place, but there's other opportunities that you can do that you don't have to be. You can be at a better place to achieve those other successes.
Yeah.
You don't have to be mad.
I think you find other drivers. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to necessarily, if you continue to learn from your failures or your setbacks, that's one thing. But if things are all going well, then you have to, that's that, again, going back to taking away from the moving on from a bad situation, it's the moving forward. It's literally like, all right, things are going well, family's good, house is good, my whole world's in order right now. I'm striving for something else. What more can I add to this? What more can I grow to this? You know, it doesn't have to be that someone's going to piss you off or anything like that.
Yeah.
Moving on, the negativity that I was saying about the moving on side of it, only strictly moving on and taking away the moving forward ideology, it's you can actually have everything going well and move forward. And that's your driver, is adding to the good. It's adding to all these situations.
Yeah.
So everything you've learned in the past and all the growth you've had, that you're not going to make hopefully the same mistakes that you have in the past. Whether it be something that you are surrounding yourself with people that you shouldn't be surrounding yourself with, taking the business ventures that you've done before your career past, the romantic relationships that you've had in the past, and you just keep going after the same type of person, all that stuff, and you're setting yourself up for failure. Because that is something that a lot of people do. They go through these cycles of these things, just to, you know, that's what they know. This is something that when things are going well, you continue to grow. Like that was, I loved what Andy said earlier when he was talking about, you know, being engaged thing and, you know, what the next steps are. And, you know, he's talked to me about, you know, why he finally, in his mind, fortunately that he was able to, you know, in a sense, lock down or get someone like Sharima to say yes, is because you had a change in your mentality.
100%.
Do you remember what you said to me?
Ooh. We've talked a lot.
We've talked a lot.
Refresh my memory, Steve.
So one of the things that he said to me, he had a lot of things going well for him, but he's going through this job change and everything else, right? You know what I mean? You were struggling. You're at the point you're kind of talking about, I think, a little bit. But it was one of those things where he's not waiting at that point to move on from something, other than maybe move on from where your current situation. But you said, because you and your fiance had been somewhat on and off. You said you took a 1.5 year vacation, is what you called it. But it was simply that you weren't ready. You didn't know. You
Right.
loved this person.
Right.
You know, all that stuff. Whether it be taking that time off or whatever it might be, but at some point you said to me that, you know, I'm not gonna find anyone that I feel about that is as good of a person and good of a fit. And I'm not doing verbatim, but that's what I took out of it. I'm sure I'm pretty close.
Pretty darn close.
And I've got to do it.
Yeah.
I've got to man up and do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the moving forward part. It's kind of like, yeah, you can keep, you know, you be scared of something. You can keep like thinking that there might be something better out there. You can keep, again, moving on from person to person or job to job, but it's kind of like, I've got this opportunity that's going to make my life better and my day-to-day that much better. And I do have to convince myself a little bit that I need to move forward.
Yeah.
With my life.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you use that whole 40 thing. I mean, that's such a cliche, but there's some accuracy there, right? I mean, I'm feeling a little bit, but it's one of those things that when you told me all that stuff, and then when you did tell me before, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna propose.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people you sent the pictures to in a personal text message, but you sent those to me.
That's right, I did.
Yeah.
That's right.
Pictures and everything.
I didn't see any of this shit.
But we had those Andy and I had those conversations where it's kind of like you realize that he needs to continue to build on his life.
Yeah.
He needs to move forward with it, and he needs to, you know, like this is someone that he knows he wants to be with and everything like that, and loves and cares about more than anyone else he's met.
100%.
100%. He says 100%. It's something that when you hear a person say all this stuff, that's that realization that you're finally moving forward.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily just moving on or you know, moving on from bad experience in the past or the scared feelings or whatever it might be, is that there's no longer this yearning for anything other than to continue to grow what you're going to get out of your days to come.
Yeah. 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 But
And she said yes.
Congratulations.
I don't know why.
I need to talk to her.
It's because your hair. His hair is always fucking
Good set hair.
perfect.
Good
Oh,
set hair.
God.
It's always perfect.
Jesus.
I mean, it literally looks like a pilot. Like if you look at this man, like
Are you
it's
seeing
just like
with
it's just,
aviators on?
just pilot. Like it's no matter what. It's crazy. I've never seen it before in my life, but I don't know any other pilots.
You got to work with all this facial hair, you know.
Oh yeah, it's such a huge
It's a
beard.
nice dark shadow though. It's very,
He gets
very
that.
complimenting.
That's literally his 5 o'clock shot. He shaved earlier. He shaved at like 11 a.m. today.
Well, let me ask this because, and I'm not. Can you not take? Please don't take this as a dig. I'm not taking it as a dig.
Get after it, yeah.
Is that, you know, on this podcast, you had a lot. We both had a lot of value, but you're kind of always the one to add the finite points, right? So we're talking about this subject of moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
The way that I look at your life, and I may be wrong, Steve, is that, you know, you got out of a weird relationship that a lot of us were irritated about, and then we're happy that you got out of.
Mm-hmm.
Bought a new house. It's a beautiful house. You've done a lot of renovations to it. It's what you wanted. You've made it work with the compliments of your mom.
Absolutely.
And it's great, and it's a beautiful thing. So moving forward, Andy's moving forward was he had everything, found a love.
Yeah.
You have the house, you have the girl, you have the Cadillac, you have the job that you love.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your next step?
Probably a deck on the back.
No, honestly, it's
You guys think that funny, right? Like, like, so one of the things I've learned is
That's hilarious. That was good.
it is funny to say and to hear, but at this point, as I was saying earlier, things are going well. I've been in a relationship for just under a year, right? It's coming up on that.
Robert Kendall said we talked about the deck this week.
Yeah, exactly. So these are those things that there are things that I'd like to accomplish, but there's a lot of things that I don't know. I'm taking it step by step. I've had the more or less crises in my life that I've had to really. That's where, for me, at the point I'm at, this topic is, it's not just about moving on. It's about moving forward. Moving forward for me is what I was saying earlier, like when you have that, you were saying, Jake, got $1 million home, you got the yada yada yada. It doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be. This is an accomplishment for me. There's been a lot of ups and downs in my life. So when you talk about finite points, my finite point going forward is to figure out, like, I got a weed outside.
Yeah.
Because in the last week, if these weeds that grew up in the last 7 to 9 days, like, aren't taken care of, I'm pretty sure they're going to overtake the entire world. Because I've never seen anything grow that fucking fast. Like, I'm serious. Like, it'll take down a plane if I don't get to it in the next 3 months, because it's going to be that fucking high. Have you seen
it's raining again.
Jack and the Beanstalk? I'm pretty sure that's what my next task is to fucking kill this thing.
It's raining right now.
Yeah, I know it's raining right now. That's why I couldn't take care of it for the podcast. So for me, it's.
I told the Uber driver over here. I said I feel like I'm in Seattle. It just constantly rains. Mm-hmm. All right, so back to yourself.
No. There's no story there. It's literally like what's the next step for me? It's to continue to learn from the past, but it's not even that. It's about. I'm truly, for the first time in a long time, and I have enjoyed myself in the past, and I'm enjoying the vast majority of my day to day, and there's no necessary need to make that an exponential growth, whether it be from business or anything else. It's to enjoy tonight. It's to enjoy tomorrow. It's to learn from the mistakes I make. Mm-hmm. It's about. Right now, financially, how do I put a deck on the house? Mm-hmm. Because in the past, I had that whole thing when I was making more money. I was banking on this major, gigantic, in my arena, gigantic profit sharing check. I would easily just throw things on the credit card because I knew I'd just pay them off at this time of the at a certain time of the year.
Right.
So it's like I can overextend.
Yeah.
That's something I've learned now is that I don't want to do again. I don't want to, I've got plenty of credit available, so if I wanted to, put a deck on the house, furnish the basement, the finished part of the basement, drywall the garage, insulate that, build whatever I want, completely get it, new landscaping, do all that stuff, and just throw it all on a credit card, I can do that, literally starting tomorrow. But I don't want to do that, because I have, again, moving forward, I want to enjoy it, and thankfully I have someone in my life, and I have a job currently that could go away tomorrow. You never know.
Never know.
But that's something that right now I want to prepare myself based on the history of my life that I want to continue to grow and do it at a reasonable pace that I can enjoy each step of it.
Yeah.
So there's no pivotal moment that's coming up that I'm going to be like, oh, I'm going to propose, I'm going to have kids. Like, I literally told Liz, I said, hey, she wants to get a dog because, she just recently officially moved in. She said, I want to get a dog. And I said, give it a year, because we just moved. I just moved into the house. Now you just moved into the house. Let's enjoy the house. Let's maybe do a vacation. Let's be smart. Let's put a deck on the back of the house. Let's do these steps so that when we get back to it, and when we've been able to enjoy that, we can do it. And then when we get a dog, there's no real undue stress. The only stress is that dog. Everything else is added up to that point.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily, I'm not moving on from anything anymore. I'm not moving forward. I'm just continuing to just keep growing.
But that is
moving forward. It's sticking to the plan and moving forward. You're absolutely right. But I'm not doing the necessary part of that moving on part.
Because there's nothing to move on from.
Right.
And
That doesn't sound like there's
but
any-
my point was, originally, I could easily, it wasn't that long ago that I was in the situation you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I can continue to hold a bitterness. I can hold that as a driving factor. That's not a driving factor. It's part of the process now. It's just, that happened, I learned from it, I'm moving forward, I'm enjoying my life right now.
Right.
So that is, it's in essence, the moving forward over just moving on.
But Steve, I want to. You touched on, and you know, if you can't talk about it, understand, but as far as the business aspect of what's
Yeah.
going on in your life with BS Cigar Company, obviously, is this a moving on event or is this a moving forward event?
It's all part of the moving forward thing, you know what I mean? So it's the same thing with the podcast, is that what I feel like I've been a part of, fortunately, with Jake, with the podcast, with Tinderbox and the BS, with Brian, it's something that I find a comfort level of with the BS thing, is that I can continue to grow something, but there's not these major aspirations for me to start traveling the country and the globe to push a cigar company.
Yeah.
You know, it's because that interferes with the lifestyle that I'm enjoying, and it's not something that I'm wanting to or prepared to offer up that capital or take out a loan to do so. It's something that, like, I'm very pleased with my life right now, and I'm going to continue to incrementally grow that. So, like, the next step, we've been doing the podcast for a year now, and that's the next step is for Jake and I to try to grow the sponsorship so it's less money out of our pocket, and we can reach more people, and we can get more people to take from these conversations that we can do that. I'm not trying to make $100,000 off this podcast starting next week. If we can grow it to a point that there's a life to it, I think that takes hard work, and I think that's something that we can do, but it's actually those steps, again, moving forward with that, to get those steps in place so that we're ready for those steps that come for that. Same thing with BS Cigar Company. If all of a sudden organically it grew and we're happy, clearly we had a huge setback. We've been with that company for 4 or 5 years doing the BS Gold, and we've had these obstacles the whole way just from the production side of it. I'm not ready to be the Plasencia, like the first generation Plasencia. I'm not going to go down to Nicaragua and buy a farm or a factory and do that. That's not what I want to do with my life. For the next 40, 50 years that I've got, hopefully, it's not my aspirations. I'm happy with the steps I'm doing. And you can call them basic, you can call them very short-minded, but as long as I keep growing personally and then professionally, if things continue to grow, I mean, there are things that I've done with the position that I'm in with Tinderbox and with BS through doing posts, involving people, providing. If I get 50 likes and I get 5 people that said, you know, I really enjoyed that post you did on that cigar, that's worth it for me. You know, we get 2,000 views, we end a broadcast here, and you've got, you know, 1,000 or 2,000 views at the end of it. That's a huge success for me, because that's a lot of people. That's more people than I see in a long period of time, other than just like customers walking in and out.
Now I'm just I'm on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
I think Jake, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm speaking that line, I think you would love to travel and take the cigar to the world.
I have so many aspirations that it makes me anxious, honestly, and honestly, like listening to you two, it really, and to be honest, it puts me in a pickle, especially with the podcast, because most of the time people aren't on the podcast that are my age. That's why I was kind of not upset, but kind of not upset, but just like down about like not being on when Tyler was on.
Yeah.
Because
or age and Angelo your age.
Yeah, so it's that was the chance to talk to people that are my age, right? Because and Steve and I do a lot of heart-to-hearts and talk to each other, but it's never like he's already been through all the shit that I'm going through. So and so are you. Like you guys are moving forward with your lives. I'm in the thick of it. So like
Just in a fog right now.
yeah,
And eventually it'll clear.
honestly. So
Yeah.
So when we talk about these subjects, that's when the arguments come up, because that's when we see the two sides of the way that we think, right? So, and he cares for me and I care for him, and it's like we're fucking married, but we're best friends. So there is a conflict there sometimes where we are in different portions of our lives. So I'm going through different shit that he never went through, but he also went through a lot of shit that I will never go through.
Hopefully.
So it's definitely, I'm just saying, not even based on the subject alone, it definitely puts me in a pickle when we talk about subjects like this, because I don't know. I don't know what my next step is. I have a lot of aspirations. I don't have the capital. I have the mindset for it. I just need someone to give me a shot. So that's my, if I would talk to somebody like an investor like that, moving forward with my life, that would be my elevator speech. I have a million different freaking ideas about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And so does everyone else.
Sure.
But I think when I talk to you, and I think when I talk to Steve, and anyone on the podcast that knows me, there's a lot of fire in my belly.
I know there is. Yeah.
And I just need that shot. Now, does that mean when I get fired from a job that I just stay stuck? And no, that's why I'm looking for jobs, but it's also put me in a pickle because I want to be in this arena.
Right.
I want to be in this whiskey arena, the cigar arena. But moving forward, there has been a contemplation between Alicia and I of making a plan to move down to Kentucky.
There you go.
Because that's where right now my heart lies, but this makes this more difficult. So
we do this remotely.
It's one of those things that I don't necessarily know. It's just I have a lot of
Skype. It's called Skype. Just kidding.
No, I get it. So I just have a lot of shit in the pot. It's just figuring out.
Well, I'll say this.
And working hard and doing the stuff that I need to do. And kind of it's like playing a game of dice.
100%.
Honestly.
Well,
and I know that that's not always the best way to do things.
Well, but I'll say this. Where there is no risk, there is no reward.
Yeah.
You can take that for however how you want to take it.
Yeah. And I'm not looking for a pep up through the audience. This is just this is real life talk through the three of us, through you guys.
Yeah.
And this is Bourbon and BS. So it's just interesting. I love hearing the stories from people that are older than me. I've always been around people that are older than me. So, but it does, like I said, put me in a pickle moving forward because I hear a lot of different experiences and I know what I want to do, but it's also I heard what you did, so I kind of want to resemble that because you're a smart man. Well, you're a smart man.
As
you're
far
a smart
as we know,
man.
yeah. You're right. As far as we
whoever
know,
I'm
you're smart.
talking to, you've already been through it. You have the experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I just engulf myself in everything and listen. That's why most of these podcasts, I don't talk a lot until the end because I want to listen.
Mm-hmm.
This is me learning. The podcast is literally me learning through experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I'll say this, that no matter who you talk to, and I'm not going to speak for Andy, but yeah, so I haven't been through everything. I'm still, that's part of the whole subject here is moving forward. I know I'm going to have another hardship. I know I'm going to have to deal with something hard. Whether or not I feel like I'm handling it the best way I can. Like I said, for example, Tinderbox tomorrow, who is my employer, could close up tomorrow.
Yeah.
And say, hey man, Brian say, I love you, man. I know we were in this, you were in this with me for the last 6, 7, whatever it is, 10 years, whatever. I gotta close it down, and this is why, and unless you can come up with the capital in this amount of time, like you're out of a job, and then I'm gonna have to figure out what to do there. So I think that's something that you and a lot of people out there listening is that just because someone's in a good situation doesn't mean that they have things figured out by any means. At this current moment, it might seem like that. No, but I mean, you're headed down a positive path. The job's going well. The relationship's going well. You've got these potential plans, but you never know when the next hurdle or obstacle is going to fucking come just barreling down the road at you 100%. As you're fucking driving down the highway.
But the difference is that you are where you want to be. That's what I'm saying. At the point in time.
At this moment, yeah, absolutely. Well, it was what? So how many years ago were you playing football in college?
2.
You were in a place that you liked to be. You had fucking dominance over your everyday life, and you were living the fucking dream. That's how fast this shit can change.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you're fucking in your early 20s, if you're 30, 40, 50 years old, 60, 70, whatever it is, something's going to happen, but that's why it is about moving forward constantly. Because when the shit happens, that's what I'm saying. It's not just about moving on. It's not about getting angry. It's not about dwelling on the past. I'm not talking about you, Jake. I'm saying that the topic at hand, it's the experiences that you're saying that I have gone through, it's not been all amazing shit. There's been a lot of downtime. And you referred to one of those situations while we knew each other. I was in the midst of it, which was a relationship. And I did have that mentality of I'm going to move on. That didn't last because I was still stuck in that situation. It's a mentality that, again, in my opinion, is short term. The moving forward part of it is as soon as you can turn that corner and you're saying, I'm not just moving on from something, I'm moving forward for the better of me and the people that I care about, but mostly it's for the better of you because then you can care about other people and support other people. That's when you're going to find that. And for you, it could be tomorrow, it could be the next day, it could be a year from now. You don't know, but it's that mentality of moving forward. And that's what I was saying earlier is for you and other people out there is that if you want to dwell and you get that high off of being angry and being mad and being in that mindset, you are selling yourself short and you are shortening your day to day. You are draining yourself with that because you haven't, and there's nothing wrong with it because everyone gets like that, but there's no point in the future of like, what is the next step? Like, what do you, like, you say you want to like, for turn back to you, Jake, if you want to move down to Kentucky, fucking start planning it out. Don't talk about it. Start looking at places, start looking at like when your lease is up and start making those choices.
Yeah.
Like that's the game changer.
Yep.
And that's not what you necessarily need to do, but it's like you want to get into this, like, and you're making these moves, which is what I think you and other people, when they're in these situations, if you can keep that positive light, going back to the whole semantic side of it, is when we go into a topic like this, I don't want to lead into it with that negativity. I want it to be a positive growth thing. Mm-hmm. So all these steps, even if it's not exactly what we want it to be, or there's not necessarily the light at the end of the tunnel is not right in your face. It is out there.
Yeah.
And we have these topics on here about taking that left when shit's in the road, you know what I mean? Hitting the yellow light, the red light, these different topics we've had. Yep. That's all part of it. So that's the part about moving forward no matter what. So it's people you talk to, whether they're younger or older than you, it's like, shit, I heard someone say today to our friend Grant, we need to get on here too. Mm-hmm. Dude's 40 years old, right? And he's helping him out, so Grant's training him, and this guy's helping him try to grow his business. In the shop today, saying to him, he's like, I literally, when I look at someone like you with the drive you have is similar to the drive I have now, I wish I was 20 again. Because that individual, Grant, is 21 years old. So make no mistake, there's envy or there's this understanding on both sides of the age gap and the things that we have figured out. Shit could be figured out, but goddamn, I wish I was 20-some years old again so I could take this drive that I've got now and the things I know now and go back to that where I was in your position. And it sounds ironic or hopeful that it's like you have this world of opportunities in front of you right now, all these ideas and these opportunities of different paths you can go down. This is what it's all about. It's about moving forward and grabbing a hold of one or many of those paths and moving forward. Because when you get down to the other side of it, and I'm 38 years old, but I'm hearing someone tell a 21-year-old that literally it's like, You know what? I'm happy with my life. God damn, I wish I was your age again. So fucking grass is greener on both sides of it. But as long as you keep moving forward down the path that you want to like actually grow your life for yourself first. Mm-hmm. And this is I'm not saying out of turn here. It's for yourself first, because this is your life. And I'm not talking just to Jake. I'm talking to everyone out there, and myself included. That sometimes you have to restart that fire with just the fact that you want to get more out of the life. And it's okay if you're happy with what you're doing. Good for you. But at some point you will be stagnant, and whether or not you need that anger or mad to get that high back, but at some point you're gonna get that momentum back, or that motive back, that you need to literally grab the reins of that and just go. Just keep moving at that.
Because you don't want to look back in your life either and say, man, I wish I could have done that, done this, done that. You know, you want to look back at your life and say, I have no regrets.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the moving forward part. Yeah. Is that because you will have that regret for hopefully just a short period of time, and then you can actually turn into a lesson that you're like, I am so much better off with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
But, yeah. That's a lot said right there.
I mean,
Thanks.
that was closing remarks without being...
I think you couldn't get this in a $500 therapy session.
It's about motivation, man. It's about motivation. And I think that's what the big part of the topic for me is about, is that it is about growing. That's the whole semantics is important for that reason when we talk about the topic, is moving forward over just moving on, is that it's the focus on growth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the potential positivity that you can get from that.
And growing is not easy, man. It is not.
Well, it's a lot different when you're when your back is up against the wall.
Well, when your back's up against the wall, I mean, you fight. You're in a fighting position.
Absolutely.
And that's what
you either sink or swim at that point.
I was talking to Dustin before he came over to the podcast. Is that it's like when people are stuck in myself, when I'm stuck in a place where my back up is against the wall, I'm not a pleasant person to be around. And that's what I'm not going to change just because I'm not a pleasant person to be around. That's my life. So and that's what I'm going to have to live with but as long as that's what I'm going to have to live with the people not wanting to be around me, because it hurts me because I want to be around everyone, right? Mm-hmm. But that's one of my coping mechanisms along with moving forward. So I think that I think when it comes to situations like this, where it's moving forward, I stem back to situations and topics that we've had on the podcast. Like the one that I really, really loved was the misinterpretation, mm-hmm. where, and I talked a lot about on that podcast that's where I've struggled with, is because I can beat down, and it may not be a misinterpretation on like how I'm feeling, but it's a misinterpretation on like what I want. Like I want to be around people, but I know I don't want. I know that I'm not happy to be around because my back is up against the wall. Because I am negative. Because I want to talk about it. Like it's interesting.
I don't feel that way with you.
Not at all.
I'm glad to hear it. But I'm saying
I don't feel like I can't hang around you because you've got this negativity or emotions inside you. I don't feel that way at all.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm glad to hear that. I'm just saying it happens. Mm-hmm. So my perspective is for the people like the Tyler Joneses and the AJ Kazmierzaks. I can't fucking pronounce his name ever. And
AJ, I want coffee, by the way.
No, he's a great dude.
He's back on. Yeah, actually got a comment for you.
And AJ is one of the most positive guys that I know that are my age.
I don't know him in person, but I want to meet him.
He's one of the most positive guys that I know that is my age. But you don't, like, people don't hear like what he's doing like behind the scenes. He's always working.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of inspiration for someone like me, because I've always been working all the time and shit don't pan out. But I still work, it's just I'm not as positive as his. So he's a motivator to me because he's my age, he knows the demographic, like he's going through the same mind screws that I'm going through. So it's just fun to hear about that, and I appreciate AJ for being on last week. So
it sounds like, you know, and if we're getting too deep.
Like I said, I don't want it to be like a pity party. I'm just
no, it's not a pity party. It's about look, you know, this is lessons in life and learning.
It's
and
about
growing.
conversation.
That's what it's all
man.
about.
That's why we're having these conversations.
So it sounds like to me that why not take the plunge and go to Kentucky and do it.
Yeah.
If that's what your heart and your ambition and desires to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let anything hold you back.
As long as that's going to get you the positivity.
That's
I mean,
moving on and move forward.
Yeah.
AJ says, Jake, let's hang out more, brother. Positivity, law of attraction, moving forward, and effort over exhaustion only. Bourbon, brats, brotherhood. Let's get you set up for the future.
Damn right.
That's the thing, is that, make no mistake, I mean, I think that's something that you really need to.
What do you fucking say? Bourbon, brats,
And
Brotherhood.
I like it.
bourbon, brats.
I like Italian sausage too, but
Get 80s bougie brats.
That's great. That's great. What were you gonna say?
I think if you are at that moment of, you know, you want to be around people, but you know people, like you don't want, like, I don't know how you said it, but it's basically like people don't want to be around you because of the negativity. It's things I'm hearing from you is that it is the moving on side of it, is that you're embracing, and you've had that reoccurring thing, is that you're embracing the negativity. And you say that a lot, but at one point, you know, is moving down to Kentucky, is doing something different, what's going to get your back up off the wall? Because at some point, you can be 24 years old and feel like you got to, like, you know, work harder and do all this stuff, and you know, the world's trying to get me down, but do you want to do that? Do you think you're going to spend the next 60 years doing that, or are you going to actually enjoy some of it? Like, when you actually have that, like, what's that next step? When do you get to the moving forward part and realize that I'm doing this because it's going to have a positive impact?
Yeah.
I mean, or you can just keep for 60 years, just be that person that feels like the whole world's getting you down. And I'm not saying you, it's everyone out there. It's like, yeah, the whole world's getting me down, the world's out to get me and all that stuff. That's a fucking terrible way to spend your days on this earth.
yeah.
I'll tell you that right now.
Well,
You can be humble. You can be in a growing sense that, you know, that I've got to pick myself back up. But that's not a continuous thing. You got to actually stand the fuck up.
Yeah.
And then you start walking forward. Then you start running and all that stuff. And you will trip. You will fall. You will get back. You'll have to get back up again.
Yeah.
All those things. But if you just want to keep on the fucking ground, then stay on the ground and just let them count you out.
Yeah.
Otherwise, fucking do something about it. You know, everyone out there. It's like, that's what this whole podcast was about for me, is that I had someone else reach out that she's, you know, going through a divorce right now. And she's struggling. But I know in her heart that she wants to move forward. She knows this is the situation I'm at. This is the point in my life that I'm at. And she says she's looking forward to hearing this, so hopefully she's still tuning in. But this is something that it's like, looking for that motivation to fucking stand the fuck up. Get off the ropes and get out there.
Yeah.
Move forward, for Christ's sake. That's everyone. Like, I went through it. Everyone goes through it. I'll probably go through it again, and I'm not looking forward to that, but that's part of life.
It's part of life. And you can't look through life through a crystal ball. You don't know. I mean, you can't predict the future.
Negativity should be a motivation so that when you look back at it, I'm happy I went through that so that I am who I am today.
100%. Well said, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, correlating back to the cigar, the placenta family. How many times was their back up against the wall and they didn't quit? Because they had the passion and the fire in their heart to keep going on, to keep moving forward, to carry out their dream.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
You know?
Yeah, I agree. Placencia.
It's correct.
Placencia. No, I think it's a great story. I think it all
Placenta's
tied in.
another topic.
You just heard me wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
No, that's not good. Here we are. All right.
We can roll the tape back.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so what'd you guys think of? Did you light up that Romeo?
I did.
All right.
He lit it up before the Montecristo.
I know we did. What do you think of it?
I like it.
Yeah?
Man, I tell you what, it's a toss-up. It's a harder draw on the Romeo.
Yeah, construction
Draw.
good,
Construction's good.
but the draw is a little stiffer. Yeah, right.
Draw's a little stiffer. I'm loving the nuances with it, but
What's the difference? Is there a difference between that with the whiskey or the Espada? What's better?
I think the Romeo.
Romeo San Andres
I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
That's
with the whiskey.
yes.
It could be the whiskey talking, but yes.
Well, and truth be told, again, you've already smoked one rich cigar.
Yeah.
We've been drinking, this and sipping on. I'm on my third glass, I believe, and it's something that my palate's gotten used to a lot of it. So now it's all balancing out for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Retro Hill still got that pepper, huh?
It does. It's good stuff. Andy, any closing remarks? I mean, we've kind of been doing that unofficially for a little while
It's
now,
almost
right?
10 o'clock.
We're 2 hours into it, so
Peace and peace.
yeah.
It's easy when you're having fun.
Dang.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on, Andy.
It's
Yeah.
always a pleasure. I
What
try
are you
to.
gonna leave us with?
Oh boy. I'd say, it all starts with life with small wins. Your small wins will turn to big wins.
Spoken like a pilot.
Seriously.
Yeah, you need to write
Keep-
a
I
small
like
quote.
talking to him because
I
it's
love
shit
talking.
that you never hear.
Well, that and he's a very, very intentional listener,
Yeah.
and there's intentional
I
conversation.
just mean like your phrasing. I mean, it's just
You just start a T-shirt line.
I've never heard anything like the shit that you say. It's great. I love it. It's refreshing. It's truly refreshing. Makes you smile.
I read a lot, but I try to surround myself with good people, and if that's the reason why I'm here, because you're good people,
Yeah.
and I enjoy hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, right back at you for sure.
So, but man, you just gotta keep getting back to it, keep moving on, keep moving forward, keep living and live life.
Yeah.
Live life.
Yeah.
You're going to make
Strong
mistakes, but keep living life. So,
Yeah.
I'll close with that.
I like it, man. It's been a blast having you on.
Absolutely.
We'll do it again. Hopefully not as much as a break this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't have much for closing remarks. It's just the fact that I don't really care for this size. What's the thicker Robusto size that the San Andreas has? It's like a 58. It's like a 5
Oh,
58.
so yeah, I forget what they call that one. There's the Robusto, the Toro, and they call it something else. But yeah, there's a 58.
It's a
yeah.
5 by 58, and I freaking love that cigar. I love it. It's not as sharp as this is. I think this is a little sharp. And what I mean is that it's got like a little bitterness, a more drier spice note than the Espada had. But as our palates have acclimated, it's really good with the whiskey. So it's pretty much anything right now would be good with the whiskey. So Steve and I got both bottles. Steve was planning on getting the Cooper's Craft Barrel Reserve, and I kind of just wanted one, just because I think it's good. So
Yeah.
we got 2 of them, and I love the taste of it. I'm glad we had it on. And again, it's $30 against my better judgment. Go out and grab it. Seriously, it should be a part of your collection. You should at least try it in the Ohio area. So it's great. I think that I learn a lot on this podcast, and I hope that a lot of people that listen learn a lot, either from my experience, Steve's experiences, or whoever the guest is. And I think that's the best way to learn. It's not about the whole pump me up, go do something. It's about the listening. It's about learning how other people have done things in their life, and then you twist and turn and finesse it into your own life. So I'm not going to sit here and try to pump you up. I've done that before in football as being a captain, and looking back on it, I really wasn't proud of it because I didn't do anything for the team besides yell. So I've done that before, I've been a part of that, and I don't want to be a part of it, but what I will say is that you need to truly listen to the words that people say throughout your life and understand and finagle your way into making it a part of your own. And that's how you gain the knowledge to move forward. And because that's, I'm not saying my way is the best way, but I think it works for me, and I don't do well. And it's funny from going from a place where the yelling and the motivating and the stand up and the kick in the ass like works. It used to work for me, but now I'm all about listening. I want the experience. I want to be a part of the experience, and that's how I learn. So take it for what it is, and you figure it out. I mean, you decipher between all three of our different experiences and decide what's best for you. But the most important part is to actually move forward and not dwell on whatever is bugging you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think we all can relate to that.
Absolutely.
On a daily basis.
Yeah, I think, Andy, again, thanks for being here. It's great having you back on, man. We don't get to hang out enough.
I love it.
And for those of you that come by the Tinderbox, or if you guys, he doesn't do a whole lot on the social media side of it, but if you do follow him, I think you're going to see a lot of pictures of this growth we're talking about, because he's gonna have a hard time not posting some of the happiness that he's found with the job and with the relationship, which I love. And I love this part of the podcast. Brief closing remarks, only because we've covered a lot, but thank you everyone for tuning in, and I think what I will say that your comments out there, 3 people around the table, whether we have 3 or 4 people, I learn a lot every week, and one thing that I will say, part of the things that have helped me continue to move forward, and I have struggled with the moving on versus moving forward aspect of it, is sometimes once you take care of yourself, you start taking care of yourself, you see the reaction of other people around you, and it becomes a motivator. Yeah. Everyone's looking for some sort of approval, whether they admit it or not. And I think that when you start really striving for making yourself better and growing, that the impact you have on people, and that's one of the reasons why we have these conversations. I love this podcast because it's not just bourbon, it's not just cigars, it's not just people sitting around bullshitting. It's kind of all the above, and this is what we get from the cigar culture, the bourbon culture, is that there's people involved, and that's what this is all about. Yeah. So appreciate the people that are interested in this topic tonight. I echo what Jake said about the Cooper's Craft, and I will say that both these cigars are excellent. You got Plasencia making it for Altadis, and you have AJ Fernandez making it for Altadis. You got both sides of it.
Altadis, or AJ's with the Romeo San Andres?
AJ makes the Romeo San Andres.
Okay.
So, and we thank our sponsors. So Tinderbox at Easton, thank you for the, by way of Altadis, but Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. Again, Bourbon and BS Podcast gets you 15% off until Tuesday at the end of business off of the Espada Oscuro from Montecristo. And then thank you, Altadis, for the Romeo San Andres. That was amazing. I'm going to continue smoking and enjoying it. Jake's, thanks for buying your Cooper's Craft.
Yeah, we'll start on Steve's later.
Cracks it open. We've had that before. So, this is great conversation, great whiskey, great everything else. And BS Cigar Company, I got a few golds here in the garage as well. The limited edition, unfortunately, gold right now.
That's what you're calling it?
Right now. It's fucking limited.
It is limited, but
so,
all right.
Thank you guys very much. Cheers. We will see you guys next Wednesday. Thank you very much.